Happy Friday, everybody. We made it to the end of the week. You didn't burst into flame. Maybe Elijah did. Maybe that's why he's not here tonight. It's very unclear. But one thing is clear. The attack on parenthood is getting very intense, very extreme. And as I sort of tweeted yesterday, I can't wait to have kids so I can deliberately not send them to public school where they can be indoctrinated and messed up and turned into crazy people. The next generation of crazy people, as it were. Sarah, who has 2 children, has successfully not turned them into crazy people.
Yeah, so far.
So far,
so good. It's a work in progress. As you know, the whole world is against us in that realm, but we're doing good so far.
So apparently what we want to do instead is abolish parenthood, as well as, train your kids to be LGBT. I love that. That's such a great way of going about doing things today. This and a lot more coming up, guys, today in this show. My name is Sydney Watson from the Creatively Named channel on YouTube. Sydney Watson, also joined today by my beautiful, lovely fill-in co-host, Sara Gonzales, and a weirdo in studio with us today as a guest. Guys, we are live in Dallas, Texas, and you are here. I guess I gotta start this off by saying, guys, Jonathan Doyle, the beautiful Jonathan Doyle, is here.
Oh, you got the beautiful tag too.
It's true. Wow. Yeah, well, what can I say?
The little fuzzy boy.
That's me. It's a high testosterone. It's a byproduct of.
This is true. And so today I want people to know you also have with you a sword.
I do.
For some reason, you have brought a sword onto the set.
It's a little scary. I mean, there's no protection. It's just it could be.
I don't understand
fall
why you're
at any time.
You make a living in a business that says, we should not be afraid of guns. This should be a normal part of society. Well, I obviously am far more conservative than both of you, and so
obviously,
I think that even returning to a state where we were just carrying around, swords akin to the Knight of Templar.
Oh my God!
I don't know. And I texted Sydney.
Is it heavy?
It's a good weight, it's a good weight. You could definitely, use it in combat.
Okay.
But when I texted you about that, I said, I'm bringing a sword, by the way, just so you know. And you were just like, haha, okay. And I was like, I'm not joking. Like, I'm going to bring a sword. So, I'm having fun with it. It did unlock this sort of archaic primal urge in me to just glide it through someone's lung like it were butter.
Oh,
but of course, we don't do that because that's, out of touch.
That gives me images of, I watched Ex Machina the other night, and when, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm about to. Spoilers, block your ears if you've not seen it. When the robots stab their maker at the end and they just slide the knife in, that's now what I'm thinking of, Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, I feel badly for anyone who doesn't have a sword. I didn't know I needed one. I didn't even know I wanted one. And then it was given to me. It's so cool.
It was given to you?
It was a
gift.
gift.
You did not purchase this?
I did not.
Wow.
No, I would have never have thought to have purchased this for myself.
I feel like whoever purchased it for you knows you very well. But probably you would say much better than you even know yourself because you didn't even know you needed it.
This person is a very talented gift giver, I will say.
I'm excited because I want to hold it after the show.
I was expecting a much more elaborate reason for the sword, to be honest. Knowing John, I was expecting it to be a metaphor for something, but it's just cool.
No, yeah, it doesn't.
Swords are awesome.
Everything that you think is cool when you're a kid is actually cool, like swords, combat, trucks, things like that. So
I'm not going to make fun of you for it because
you can.
Well, I
could try.
want one because I think they're very cool.
That's not a threat, by the way. That's just you can't. You haha, you have something cool. Remember when I got into that car accident? People were teasing me about that. They're like, haha, you got into a car accident. I was like, and it was a sick car. How are you waving at my face like I'm a loser or something?
And it wasn't, and you weren't at fault. So.
Well, no, it was a woman who was driving.
Yeah, we know, John.
Yeah. What were your words when you were telling us about it? What happened to the car, John? Well, a white woman happened to the car.
Yeah, white women and their consequences have been a disaster for the human race.
And ironically, much as, there is some rhetoric surrounding women that I don't agree with, this is the one area where I will agree that women can't drive.
It's true.
I'm a woman, and even sometimes behind the wheel, I'm like, I am a danger.
Yeah. And
someone might get maimed. I'm not sure.
And this isn't just,
good.
because masculinity has always been associated with cars and driving. That is part of it, but it actually can be substantiated empirically. If you look at the way women excel, or I should say don't excel in terms of spatial awareness, object rotation, when that translates into a practical application like driving, you guys just don't excel. And so I was stopped at a light minding my own business, and this woman was trying to turn left onto the street that I was on during a yellow arrow. And she did not perceive the depth of the oncoming car adequately, and she was T-boned at such a I guess, power level that it then accelerated her car into my car, and yeah, it was very sad.
It was very sad. You freaked me out. He came walking into the studio. I remember Sarah and I were in the makeup room.
It was so sad.
And it was very upsetting because John was like, I was in a car accident. And I was like,
it was really,
but then
really
it was
sad.
fine.
I've never seen John so serious and just.
The worst part about it
crestfallen.
is I had a dream a week before it happened that it happened. And then because I wasn't posting content, my fans are such very fine people. They were leaking my phone number, and then they started making memes like John Doyle died in a car accident with like pictures of like the car that I was driving like wrecked. And I was like, why? And so it like happened. Like they spoke it into existence. And so, yeah.
And now he has a sword, and there you go. We've come full circle. Now Jonathan has another thing that with which he can kill people if he so desires, which is honestly, it's not the worst thing in the world. But you know what is? You know what's the worst thing in the world?
What?
All the shit surrounding parenthood. This story killed me. I believe it was Robbie Starbuck who posted about this today on Twitter. Can we bring up this article? California apparently should abolish parenthood in the name of equity. I don't know how we got to this point where people are writing op-eds about actually getting rid of parents. I mean, it was enough to say, let's get rid of dads and let's sort of X out the father in the picture. Now it's like, well, let's just fuck the entire system altogether.
I'm very confused. Like they legitimately, literally mean
yes,
parents just should not.
Yes.
What, they just donate their children to the state?
Well, I'll read it to you. Can we grab this article up, please? All right. So this says, if California is ever going to achieve true equity, the state must require parents to give away their children.
Require?
Yes.
My gosh.
Give away their children.
These people are awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Today's Californians often hold up equity, the goal of a just society completely free from bias, as our greatest value. Governor Gavin Newsom makes decisions through an equity lens. Institutions from dance ensembles to tech companies have publicly pledged themselves to equity, but their promises are no match for the power of parents. It gets worse. John, you're smiling, but it gets worse, man.
I'm a happy guy. I put on a smile and everything's fine. It's Friday, but this shouldn't come as a surprise. I mean, we know that it's kind of a tired point by this point that, communism seeks to abolish like the family unit. But it is true. I mean, like everything that is adjacent to communism, whether that's like feminism or gender theory, that is all sought to abolish the family and like normal structures in society because they want to achieve a state where literally the only thing that can unite the people is their mutual allegiance to the state, not shared language or culture or heritage or anything like that, not even family, but like literally that we all are subject to like the will of this state. And so we've been seeing that play out more at a higher rate of acceleration since like the 1960s, but that's always been the goal. And they've never even hidden that. I mean, I've seen articles adjacent to that saying things like, parents should not be allowed to homeschool their kids because public education is required to make sure that children aren't like a threat to democracy and things like that. And it's like I remember we talked about this on your show. Every time I hear our democracy, I become a danger to my democracy because it's just such a stupid phrase because they don't mean like, first of all, it's like our democracy. And at first I was hearing that as like, what do you mean we? Like, I'm illiberal. I'm totally against that. But then I realized that to hear it properly is to hear our democracy, not in terms of the collective, but the possessive. Like this is our regime. The same way, it's the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea is like sort of the nominal establishment of government that they have. So.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, man, this article goes on to say, my solution, making raising your own children illegal is simple. And while we wait for the legislation to pass, what? We can act now. The rich and poor should trade kids and homeowners might swap children with their homeless neighbors. I can't. Okay.
No. Was
this a modest proposal, like
no.
satire? Because nowhere in here does he say it, but he has a modest proposal line.
I was reading this too, and I was like, this feels like someone is just trolling us at this point.
I have to think so.
It doesn't feel real.
But I think that's probably the worst implication is that no one can tell anymore.
That's the problem.
It's like, he might not be kidding.
Yeah.
Well, let me look at the original, because the article that we have, we got from Yahoo. So let me have a look at the original, because usually they do say that this is satire, if it is. But I don't think it is. And also, now that I'm looking at the face of the guy who wrote this, I'm not so sure it's satire.
True. Physiognomy is real.
She knows it is, in fact, real.
Yeah, well, Either way, I think the fact of the matter is that I see stuff like this actually a lot, particularly on Twitter, when you're reading through the psycho things, when you get, when you end up in the rabbit hole and you see the really psycho things that people have to say. This type of commentary is actually not something that I think is too far away from what a lot lot of people think.
Yeah, well,
so even if this is satire.
No, I completely agree.
There's plenty of people who think
it's just like Alex Stein, who I know you guys just talked about on your show. I just had him on my show today because I was like, I don't know whether this guy is for real or not. We don't know. In 2022, everything is so upside down. Everyone is so incredibly crazy that it's really hard to decipher whether or not it's a troll or it's just another crazy liberal.
Yeah. I mean, it's accelerating too.
Yeah. One of my favorite Twitter accounts, because they're one of the most intelligent Twitter accounts that's still on Twitter,
is Sara Gonzales TX.
No.
Wow, gosh, I love her.
Anyways, it's a guy named Orrin McIntyre, and one of the things that he has said to the point where it's now like become a meme is it's not rocket science. The left literally just wants to diddle your kids, is I think like his exact phrasing. And it's true. It's like we are so trained to abandon the language of the spiritual, things like good and evil, and just think of things in terms of the material, what can be proven and things like that. That now whenever we see things like this, we're always like, well, surely there must be some sort of explanation. And, let's not assume malevolence where incompetence is a just as good of an explanation. And it's like, no, I don't think that that's the case. I mean, if you look at like ancient societies, frankly, they knew that they could blur the lines between our realm and the demonic realm when they could extract power from demons. And so that's why you'd see them participating in child sacrifice rituals, all sorts of like really weird sexual rituals. And it's like, you see the same thing now, but now there's a guy in a lab coat talking about, oh, we have a study that says that like, this is okay and this is what we should be doing. And it's like, it's the same thing. Time is a flat circle. It is all cyclical, which goes completely against the leftist view of history, which is like, up until about 60 years ago, it was just like patriarchy and evil and everything was the worst. And then during the 1960s, it was like things started to get better. And then during the 1990s, it got better a little bit faster because now gay people are like in the mainstream conversation. And then there was like this just flashback to Nazi Germany during the Trump era. And now once again, we're on the road to progress. Like they're so ignorant in their understanding of history. They like literally think, and that's why they are progressive, is they think that we started at point A and we're on our way to point B. But it's like, you don't understand like everything that's going on now. There's another great book called I think The Fate of Empires or something. And it goes through how like in empires, when they're in their like late stage about to collapse, you literally see things like feminism, like homosexuality, all these things that are being pushed now. And gay people, or I shouldn't say gay people, I should say leftists. What's the difference? They are so prideful that they think that like they invented this idea like, oh, what if a man could just say he's a woman? Like as though this weren't a thing that's been going on since like the beginning of time. They are so ignorant and prideful. And I looked at my sword when I said, I was like just gravitating towards it. Okay, go ahead.
No,
we literally just had this conversation the other day on the phone where we were talking about history, and Sarah was like, history, like it's almost as if people were doing this on repeat. And it's funny because you look back through history and you can see that most things I would say that are happening, maybe not in terms of the homosexuality and the trans stuff, but certainly, the other things that are happening in terms of the economy or the way that politicians are behaving, what have you. It's like Groundhog Day.
No, it's literally true. And it's funny too, because they understand the existence of these things in a way that allows them to argue in favor of them. So like they'll say like, well, there was, the Greeks were homosexual too. And it's like, wow, look where that got them. And it's like, so they understand that like these things existed throughout history, but they use that in a way, well, like, see, this is why it's natural. And this is like a real thing. They didn't understand that that was a symptom of like decadence and like a culture in decline. And like, look at where those cultures are now.
Well,
they're like gone.
Yeah, but that's because the leftists are in the institutions where they're being taught and they're only getting taught half the story, if at all. I mean, how can we expect them to know all the history that they need to know in its full context when they're refusing to teach it in these schools?
Also, the more that I look into this person that wrote this article, I don't think it's satire. Because I looked up the where it's originally posted is not satire. It's an actual, it's the Ventura, like, what is this? Ventura Star. That's real. The place where apparently this guy writes usually is also real. I can't find him on Twitter to attack him.
I believe you. It's sad that we've gotten to that point where you read it and you're like, wait a second, is this Babylon Bee or is this real life?
But imagine actually like being a serious person and going to your computer one day and going, okay, I'm going to write a column about how we need to abolish parenthood completely. And then in that column, I'm going to tell parents that they need to give their children away to not only the state, but to other people. who have different experiences. If you have a house, give your children to a homeless person.
Yeah.
Right.
Another really good point that guy I brought up earlier, Orrin McIntyre, made is that there is a limit to like what we would regard to be rational discourse. So you can only walk across stage and shake hands with somebody and debate like a certain amount of things. You know, at a certain point, you're going to have to draw the line and say, this is beyond the scope of rational discourse. This is just something that we're simply not willing to entertain. I don't care if you claim to have a study that proves, like we talked about the last time I was on last Friday, that like, which is an argument that they're legitimately having right now on the left, is that perhaps it is beneficial for adults to engage in sexual relationships with children. I'm not willing to entertain a study like that. I'm just not. Like, I know that that's wrong, and I trust myself to know that that is wrong. And so, no, I'm not going to like shake your hand and pretend that this is like a legitimate idea. And it's like, you can only extend that good faith to people who you think are also acting in good faith. Like, I'll debate tax policy, I'll debate federalism, but I will not debate these issues. I would rather crush them into the ground with my heel. The same thing goes for the type of people that we're up against now. You cannot extend ethical politics to hostile outgroups. You can, those Democrats, but it's like, these are like literal communists who want to destroy everything that our country was built upon. They've disregarded the Constitution. And, you know, I'm not a simp for the Constitution by any means. I probably have some pretty unpopular takes on it. I love it, but I think that it was fundamentally a flawed document. And I think to argue otherwise would just be ignorance of our current condition. And if you don't believe me and you want to get mad at me, watch the video on my channel I posted about a month ago about Christianity. I go over this thoroughly, but it's like, you know, the Constitution was supposed to be the framework from which we embark. And these people are, no, we're just rejecting it. And so it's like, okay, well, why are we supposed to take you seriously then, like, at all? Like, I'm not going to extend that to you because you are a threat to, like, the existence of our country and our sovereignty and, like, everything. So, no, veto.
Well, and I think conservatives get so wrapped up in being, like, the having the moral high ground, right? They're like, well, they just don't understand that they're playing unfairly.
Is the chat being mean to me?
No. You just made me think when you brought up the Constitution. I saw something today that David Hogg had said, you know, that guy who got famous off the backs of his dead classmates.
It's so true.
He tweeted, if the filibuster was so important, it would be in the Constitution. He doesn't know what a filibuster is. I'm entirely certain he does not know what a filibuster is, because no serious person who got, you know, famous off the death of off the backs of their dead classmates would ever tweet something like that. Sorry, that you saying Constitution reminded me of this, and
so you get into Harvard these days, you know?
Yeah.
They're taking the best and brightest.
What was the name of the pillow company that he started and then promptly
was it Our Pillow?
It was like Good Pillow or something.
Wasn't it? I think it was Our Pillow.
Was it? I thought it was Good Pillow. We should look that up.
Okay, hold on.
It was just like
David.
Wow, that is
Hogg.
That is creative.
I've had a fantasy ever since that happened, actually, and he like entered the mainstream. I wanted to box him for charity, and I wanted to
Good Pillow.
It is Good Pillow.
Come out to what was that? So I think it's Real American, Hulk Hogan's old entrance theme, and I wanted to like beat the shit out of him and claim it was for charity or something.
David Hogg?
Yeah.
Oh, so you could basically just do who are the blonde guys that are really popular?
Jake Paul.
The Paul brothers.
Thank you.
Who watch my videos, by the way.
Really?
I can't prove it, but I have this sort of like spiritual feeling that this happened.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense.
Happen.
They sort of, to me, embody your neo-Gastonism.
They are, you know, we don't get a lot of these opportunities, and you really have to hold on to them while you can. You got your Tom Brady's, your Jake Pauls. These are examples of white excellence, and we don't get to talk about that enough.
The Paul brothers are white excellence?
Correct.
Okay.
No, I mean, these guys, first of all.
Is that another video idea just for you now?
Well, I don't know if I want to say that, but it's true. I mean, you look at these guys.
All right, clip it, guys.
Go ahead.
The Paul brothers, they're white excellence.
Are they not? Prove to me that they're not. Let's have this argument. This is not beyond the scope of rational discourse.
I have no sentiments or feelings towards the Paul brothers besides the fact that I am impressed with their hustle. Yeah. Those kids have made a shit ton of money in a very, very short space of time. And now they fight people like Floyd Mayweather.
No, it's so good. I respect that.
What is that?
Really what I enjoy the most about them is that they are instinctively right-wing. So like, and you know, Jake Paul's a great example of this. He's a guy who's a Chad, maybe about 95 IQ, but it's like he's instinctively right-wing. So he'll do an interview with these two black women and they're like, do you think it was racist when you knocked out that guy because he's white or he's black and you're white? And he just goes, no, dumb question. No, next question. No, that's dumb. He just like totally dismisses it. Whereas, if one of us were asked that question, we'd have to be like, get at this really complex answer, but it's like, he doesn't have to do that. He can just, no, that's dumb. Next question. And so I really respect that. Tom Brady's the same. People don't understand my attitude towards football. It's like, I'm not a football fan necessarily. I'm simply a Tom Brady fan. They're like, oh, he's bandwagoning the Patriots. Now he's bandwagoning the Buccaneers. Do you see why? Tom Brady. Here's a guy who keeps winning. He's an acknowledgement of hierarchy and of excellence. Everyone wants him to, like, if you look, every time Tom Brady wins a game, you will see tweets like, I feel like this is racist somehow that Tom Brady just keeps winning, because they literally hate him because he's just a normal white guy who's really good at football. Yeah. And he was spotted with a MAGA hat back in like 2016 in his locker. And so for reasons like that, you kind of have to look at these media figures and just sort of like idolize them a little bit purely for that reason, I think.
I can't stop looking at your shirt.
I know. I was going to say, do we want to address the Floyd in the room? Okay.
George Floyd conservatism. Are you not familiar? I really feel bad for those who do not purchase merch at heckoffmerch.com. But George Floyd conservatism. Is your store
still up?
No, I took it down. I don't want to be the guy who you can always get like, a shirt from. I want to like think of designs that I think are good and do it for like a limited time. I think that just makes it like cooler. So that's what we did with George Floyd conservatism.
It's exclusive.
It is.
Very, very exclusive.
It is. Okay. But George Floyd conservatism, though, is not exclusive. It is actually inclusive, open to all parties. And that was actually the monologue that inspired the idea, is just that the right loves so much to play in the left's moral framework that 30, 40 years from now, we're going to have people who are like idolizing George Floyd the same way we have people now who are idolizing MLK. And there's going to be an MLK video dropping on Monday, by the way.
I think that's more of a commentary on the education system rather than anything else, because I've said this I think you were on the episode where I was like, when I realized that the Rosa Parks thing was staged, I was like, you have to be kidding me.
Yeah, and then we were both here.
Yeah, and then well, that was like a crowning moment for me, and my whole life I'd been led to believe that it was this miraculous situation where this woman was like, no, I'm going to take a stand, when in reality, from top to bottom, it was staged.
And that goes back to what I was talking about. Yes, it's what they want to teach you, not what actually happened.
But I mean, this is why it's a perfect thing to circle back to the original topic here. This is why it's a perfect thing to hand your children over to the state. Yeah. Because then they can control 100% of what they think, believe, share, subscribe to. True. I mean, and the biggest thing too, I was thankfully, I think, in a period of time when I was in primary school and then I guess in high school too, when we actually learned useful-ish things. I'm not quite so sure why I know so much about sediment and rocks, but I do know lots about that. Also, the sex ed that we were taught was like straight down the line sex ed that traumatized me, and I was like, I never want to have sexual relations with anybody at any point in my life. I legitimately went home, was like, chlamydia will kill you if it's left untreated.
I had I think this was 7th grade, and we were taught sex ed health class by one of our gym coaches who told us that women could only get pregnant if they orgasmed. So that was my public education.
I think that sex ed should be banned from schools.
Really? Why?
Because I think that the left wants it to be in schools because I think that they want to sexualize your children. Yep. And the justification that they give for that, I think, is totally ad hoc. Like, they're like, well, kids need to learn about this. Like everybody figures it out. Like, you understand. I think it's a very simple conversation that you have with your parents. I don't think you need to like go through all of it. And when you see how it's implemented, they are basically reducing what sex is to like this thing like, oh, whatever you do, don't get pregnant, like as though that's like the worst thing in the world. And they're kind of like reducing what it is as like this metaphysical thing that binds people together to like this thing you do for fun. And I just think that that's negative on the net.
Well, I disagree with you here, because as a general rule, I think that if people are not learning about sex ed in a more structured environment, because you have to consider too, there are parents out there who will never talk to their kids about these sort of things. And it's not to say that it's the state's position to do that or the education system, given what we know about the education system being a complete bowl of shit right now. But let's pretend for a second in this hypothetical world that the state or that education is okay. Just okay. Not great, but just okay.
Okay.
So I think the first thing is that a lot of parents will never address this. And then the other thing too is if kids aren't learning this in this more structured environment, they're going to learn it from things like porn, which porn is not an accurate representation of anything. And I think as a general rule too, there's way too much emphasis on watching porn. I think that should be removed completely because I think that screws people up.
We're going to ban that too, don't you worry.
Yeah.
But to not teach sex ed when there's so many, I'm not just talking about having sex with other people. I'm talking about like learning about your own anatomy, learning about, other people's anatomy, things like that. We were taught that, we were taught how things actually operate, what we can expect when you're a young, because I remember, I think we were in grade 7 or 8, and they were like, a lot of you are going to, then they separated the boys and the girls, and they said, girls, a lot of you are going to either start getting your periods now, or some of you might have this. Hey, here are ways that we deal with that. Here's what toxic shock syndrome is. Here are all these things that you will probably need to know going forward from here. And I honestly, a lot of that I think was really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are components of that, as a young person, it's helpful to know mostly the science part of it, right?
Sure.
And not the rest of it. Because I can see both of your sides. I do not like the idea of the school teaching my kid something that I don't want him to know, and putting an emphasis maybe on something that I don't want him to know regarding sex just because other parents don't want to do their jobs and be actual parents. You know what I mean? Like,
Such a good point, Sarah.
Thanks, John. It's just like that's not my fault.
Sure,
So I shouldn't be penalized and my kid lumped in with all of the other kids. I mean, we have to get to a point where we just say there are going to be bad parents and their children, unfortunately, are going to have to reap the consequences of their parents' actions, and that's just part of life.
But what if some parents argued that you're the bad parent because you're teaching them in the first place? Like,
then
what
they're
if
wrong?
Well, but see, this is the thing. Then you end up with a problem where it's nothing will ever be across the board.
No,
right?
I mean, I agree with you, but I think that that's the reason why it shouldn't be taught in school. Like, I don't think that that's the answer to the problem, is to just say, okay, we realize that you guys are going to think one way and you guys are going to think another. So we're just going to put our viewpoint as the deciding factor. Like,
also,
I don't think that
if you open that can of worms, it leads to the slippery slope, which of course we all know has been eternally vindicated. Like, I'm totally fine with, like, I remember that conversation. I think we're in 5th grade where we separated into the 2 rooms and the girls were told like, hey, you're going to start bleeding. The boys were told like pee hard. And then the problem is,
is that how that conversation went?
I mean, if you want me to,
boys
like,
are so simplistic, I believe it.
If you want me to like break down like what Mr. Brownrigg actually got into, I
no,
can't.
I don't.
Oh, you remember your teacher too? Crap.
He wasn't even my teacher. So imagine how traumatized I was. I've got this guy who wasn't even my teacher because my teacher.
You're like, does this guy even work here?
Yeah,
Who are you,
no,
Mr. Janitor Man?
He did. Miss Smith was the woman, so she told the girls the girl stuff, and then Mr. Brownrigg told us the guy stuff.
Brownrigg, that's a great name.
Oh yeah, no, I remember all my teachers. I like my teachers. But where are we going? That sex ed, pedophiles. Oh,
slippery slope.
Yeah, if you open up that can of worms, if you acknowledge, or I shouldn't say acknowledge, if you like invent this concept that like child sexuality exists and they have to be taught about it because consent and responsibility or whatever, then you see what we're seeing now, where all of a sudden it should be scaled back. Well, if we scale back to maybe 2nd grade or maybe kindergarten or preschool, and then they're like, well, we should expand what we're even telling them about. So now you get articles talking about programs where they want to teach like kindergartners about like sex toys and things like that, and it's like, of course. It started with good intentions. The road is always paved with good intentions. Like, well, kids should learn about sex because a handful of bad parents. But again, I just don't believe that it's that like complex or nuanced of a thing that needs to be talked about. I think that it's a very important thing, but I don't think that like this is something that's really just like, we really need a curriculum because this is just like algebra or something. It takes a second. It's like, okay, mommy loves a daddy very much. It's like a very simple conversation, I think.
I also, can I go back to something that you said too about the porn? That like they'll just see it, they'll just go to porn, and that's not a realistic thing for them to be watching. I think that is, again, I would go back to like, well, that's a parent that at some point they are going to have consequences for their bad actions, because I can guarantee you, I know exactly what my child has access to and exactly what he does not have access to, and he will not have access to anything that he could accidentally or intentionally be looking that stuff up. And that's what a good parent does. You don't just allow the state or the phone or the internet to babysit your child.
What about when he's a teenager though, when he's sneaky and they know how to get around the parental locks, Sarah?
I don't think that
they have
parents
little
realize how like pervasive that issue is.
Yeah.
And it's like, who should theoretically be addressing that would be the father,
right,
who, because our family structure is so collapsed, is either absent or apathetic because he's probably watching it too. Like 85% of men in this country are like addicted to pornography.
85?
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Well, Okay, so it's 80% of men are watching it at least once a week. If you watch my video, I did like a 2-hour dissertation on this, breaking down how it's literally the same as like any substance or chemical addiction. And then that seemed a little low to me, so I threw in an extra 5% for good measure. So
for the ones who are not
85%.
being honest.
Yeah, exactly. So 85% is the figure we're going with. And I just don't think we understand how bad it is, because like you've got the dads who are kind of like, oh, come on, just girl, look it, I like this too. And they don't understand that it's literally rewiring their child's brain to be like messed up. Like, I mean, loss of gray matter, your amygdala is messed up, your prefrontal cortex is not developed properly. And it's like actually like I don't want to say psyop, because that's kind of getting beat into the ground at this point, but it is a psychological weapon. Like you can even look at throughout history. Well, in terms of when it's existed like this, Israel, for example, has used this as a weapon against Palestinians before. They took control of their televisions, they broadcasted pornography because it subverts and distracts the society. And I think that it's not enough to just want parents to be more proactive, because I don't think that parents understand how pervasive the issue is. And I think, the average age at which kids are getting exposed to it is like 11. So it's like...
And then that's informing all of their sexual interests.
And that means, too,
their
assuming a normal
tastes
distribution, 50% is lower than 11. And it's like every kid's got a phone now. Every kid has to be on the internet now, which is a mistake, but it's just the way society is.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't plan to even entertain the idea of my child having a cell phone until he is of driving age.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to get into contact with him. Right now, he has a watch that is literally, it's a kid's watch where I am the only, he cannot accept any incoming calls. He can't he can only text me emojis or little voice clips. And he can only get in touch with my husband and I. Like, it's very locked down. So it has GPS. It has all of the things that I need, but he doesn't have access to all of the bad parts of technology. And it's just like, I mean, I agree. I think a lot of parents just neglect their responsibility and don't think about it. But again, I don't think the answer is having someone else determine that you're not being a good enough parent. So we're going to step in when it comes to teaching your kid this, because then it's like, where does it end?
I still think it's remiss in a lot of ways to not include some sort of education for kids about anatomy and about
I agree with that. And that's
and
the
all that
science
sort of
part
stuff.
of it. I agree with you there.
I mean, I think that's what I'm getting at, though. I'm not saying that you should be having these psycho books where it's like, hey, here's how to perform oral sex on someone, or here's how to do like graphic things, or it's okay to have sex with somebody who's however many years your senior. Like, I'm not talking about that. I am purely referring to the anatomical, like, hey, here's what this is, here's what that is. Because even as I've gotten older, and this might be TMI, I've had so many conversations, not only with guy friends, but with boyfriends too, who are like, oh shit, like, what is this on a girl? Like, what does this do specifically? And I'm like, okay.
That's sad.
Or like, well, yeah, because the education system or the education that they're getting at home or whatever or throughout their lives is so bad that they have no understanding of not only female anatomy, but generally how any of this sort of thing operates. And two, this is where porn comes in. Again,
I think we're
this
on the
is
same
TMI.
Are we?
I think that Sydney is so frustrated with maybe some of the men that she's interacted with and their inability to properly. And so now she is so frustrated with that she's outsourcing that to the state now. And she's like, you need to, this is literally.
Fix this.
Thank you for saying that, John. I didn't want to go there.
It's a public. It's a public health crisis.
Yeah.
We need to address this, and it needs to be taught in schools.
You don't want Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and Chuck Schumer teaching the men in your life where to touch ladies.
No. I don't want that. But no, but it's just
that.
general. It's just like general lack of understanding of just like anatomy that I'm confused by. I'm like, how do you not get this? Because a lot of people take cues from porn. They go, oh, this is normal behavior. Yeah. It's not, my friend. Let me assure you, this is not normal. Most of the stuff that you see in porn, even it's funny too, like the few lesbian friends that I have, when they describe these things to me, they're like, what you see in particularly like lesbian porn, for example, no one does that. Like, this is not normal. This is for men. This is made for men, not for women. This is made for men.
It's for camera angles.
Yeah,
it's also a weapon, by the way. One more thing I did want to say on that.
It's perverse and it's bizarre, and that's what's informing a lot of young people. And I just think that I'm not saying that in schools they should be like I said, I'm not saying in schools that it should be this graphic, messed up teaching of, sex positions and what have you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about it from a purely like, hey, here's what the body parts do. Here's what you can expect. Enjoy.
Then that's it, though. Like, I'm not comfortable with the school teaching my son like how to.
No, neither would I be.
Okay.
No, neither would I. No, but I'm saying like people's comprehension of anatomy is so bad they don't even know where things are.
Yeah.
Like, at all. on themselves and
like
on other
wrong,
people too.
What we talking, like wrong hole? Or now I'm very curious about your
tell you
experience.
afterwards. No, it's just even like having legitimate conversations with like
Sydney
guy
goes,
friends.
oh, that's the wrong one.
I don't know. You know what? I'm a virgin that loves God. I don't ever participate in untoward
Sydney
things. Sarah.
would never do anything like that.
You're right.
Never.
I'm
She
sorry.
she is the most innocent person.
She's literally fumbling.
I feel like people don't get the humor. So even on this, I'm like, fuck me, guys. Like this is
Sydney
about to get
Watson
bad.
saying "fuck me, guys." No way.
The out of context is gonna have some good fun with
That's
this
great.
one.
That's great.
That's
It's
not
bad
going
too.
anywhere.
It's bad too because like I am the most boring, like run of the mill, like straight laced human being. Like as an adult, that just is like, nope. I don't like the weird shit. I just let's move on.
No kinks. Sydney says no kinks. What? The thoughts that are going through John Doyle's head right now.
I just want to talk about politics. I maintain.
Dude,
that.
I'm just saying, kids deserve to be educated about stuff, and now I'm. And
Look
I
what
just
you did.
wanna-
You brought it up. You opened up the can of worms, and now everyone's. Yeah, I would love to see the live chat right now. I
don't
would
wanna- I don't wanna-
love to see
I
the
don't want to
live
look
chat.
at the live chat. I don't want to look at. Sarah's got it up. and
Sydney
I-
Freak confirmed.
To sort of
That's what they're saying.
reorient the conversation here. One thing I will say too about pornography is if you look at the way that it affects the male brain, it rewires your dopamine receptor and like your reward system. And so what happens as a side effect of that is your ability to perceive pleasure in any capacity is diminished. So if you don't believe me, you think I'm a prude or something, I'm out of touch, that's fine. But just think to yourself, like if you as a young guy or just a guy in general in your life are experiencing symptoms of depression, you feel tired, groggy, like you're kind of, clouded, you can't really focus on things, that is all symptomatic. And we can prove this scientifically. And if you don't believe me, watch my video, tell me I'm wrong after, that's fine. But it's like the case. And so the reason I go after this so heavily is because I think that the biggest problem we have in society is the emasculation of men. And what's largely contributing to that is pornography. And so it's like, how are we as men supposed to like rise up and take our country back if we're all like slaves to this sort of literally like a psychological weapon it's being waged against us. I mean, it contributes to divorce. It contributes to, erectile dysfunction. Like we've had, I think in the last 15 years, a 1,000% increase in erectile dysfunction. I see ads now when I watch like Hulu or something, which it's not my subscription. I'm not paying. I'm not doing it. But you'll see ads and it's like this young guy and he's selling pills for like ED. And it's like, this is not normal. Why are we pretending this is normal? This should not be happening, but it is. So yeah, we're banning porn. Sorry, it's not free speech. It's going to go away.
John Doyle can be so wholesome at times.
My mom loves you, dude. Like when she watches
mothers love me.
These,
I'm just
these
it's so
episodes.
cute.
Dude, she was so funny last night. She's like, Sydney, you said tendrils, and I think you meant to say tentacles. And I was like, oh really, Mom? Oh really? I meant to. Okay, thank you for getting in my brain and telling me.
You want to
And
see? I
I
have to
miss
show you
being
this.
lectured. Like I really do. I miss my mom lecturing me about dumb crap. So when she texts me these things, I'm
Yeah.
like, I love you.
My mom texted
And
me
then
the
she
other
tells
night.
me how much she loves John.
Yeah,
She's like,
she goes,
that's a very clever young man. Oh, that's
I know.
Sorry, Mom. I know you
my
didn't talk
parents
like that.
came to watch my show on a day that John was here and taping,
Yeah.
and they were just like, "He's just so smart. He's such a nice young man." I'm like, "You don't know him."
My
very
mom
well.
texted me. Whoa.
You just see him behind the scenes. I know what you do on Friday nights, Johnny boy.
I talk about politics with my friends. You know what I'm going to go? I literally cleared my living room. I'm going to go LARP with my sword when I get.
I actually 100% believe you.
Oh
John.
no!
I
By
know
the
that
end of the
you will.
weekend, something's gonna get broken. I'm having like way too much fun. I'm like getting like
I want
one-liners
a
and
sword.
everything.
I saw this thing on Twitter of a girl who had saved up and bought herself an entire
Oh, the suit of armor?
Oh, I
the
saw
suit of
this.
armor,
Yeah.
and people were shitting on her for it and attacking her. And I was like, you know what? If you want to buy a bloody suit of
Yeah.
armor and this is what you want to own, I'm fully on board.
That's
like,
badass.
My mom texted me the
Stuff
other
is so
night,
cool.
and she goes, "Do you really believe women should be illiterate? If that were the case, we never could have read all of the Captain Underpants or Curious George books together."
Oh my gosh, that's the cutest thing I've ever
And
heard.
I texted back. I was like, "Argument status obliterated. Like, there's nothing."
That's so
That is
sweet.
cute.
My mom got on to me yesterday because I made the comment that I don't think that women should be president.
True.
Yeah. And my mom was like, I cannot believe my daughter would say that a woman shouldn't be president. I was like, Mom, this text is just another reason why women should not be president.
They defer to emotion. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
I
the
know.
problem.
I was like, it's
Let me
too
see
much.
weird crap.
There's too much drama.
My mom is
There's
so-
too much passive aggressiveness. Like you can't have that.
Oh,
You
I
can't be a
have-
diplomat.
That's women in politics.
I just triggered
100 years
John.
later. You know, if you think about like The way too, or back to the education thing, the way that we are taught about like an abusive government or like a tyrannical government always defers to this like Hollywood idea of like, oh, it's this one guy and he's crazy and he's wielding power because he doesn't like you. And it's like, if we can kind of, maybe call that like an abusive father. Look at the way that we have power now. When you allow women to infiltrate government, you allow effeminate men to infiltrate government. It's been 100 years now since they got the vote. Look where we're at now. We have a government that represents what you would think of as an abusive mother. It's not going door to door shooting people necessarily, but look at the way that they maintain that power. Emotional manipulation. Yeah. They're guilt tripping you. You enslaved people, things like that, keeping you dependent on them. If you look at, I think it's Munchausen by proxy or something like that, 98% of those cases are like mothers. It's like the overbearing mother who seeks to keep the child dependent on them. Oh, look at how much I've done for you, that sort of guilt. That's exactly what we're experiencing now, and I just think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look at Kamala every time she gets asked, like, I would say a tough question, but they're not even tough questions. They're just like questions that she doesn't expect to be asked, and she just gets so condescending and snotty and, passive aggressive.
Off-putting woman in politics.
Yeah,
even more than Hillary Clinton. Like she is.
Even more than AOC.
I agree.
At least Hillary got stuff done.
I'm actually kind of, I like AOC a little bit. I will say, I relate to her a little bit, and
you're very much like her,
John.
Am I? Why?
No.
Yeah, you're popular and good with the youth.
It's true.
And anyone who criticizes you wants to date you.
That's unironically true. It's like, and you guys know that, but yeah, so I relate to that struggle of hers.
John, we pine.
So true.
We pine for you.
It's true. I articulated this strategy on Sarah's show earlier this week. I think that we need, and I've tried to like rhetorically lockpick my audience into like doing this because I don't want to be the one to do it, but we need someone to get into Congress and straight up like say something during a session of Congress to AOC, like, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, you really should smile more, just something like that, because you need, the same way that they throw stuff at you that is just so stupid and vacuous that you're like, I don't even know how to respond to this. We could do the same thing. That would melt their brain. They would still write the articles calling you sexist, but that would still kind of like throw dust in their face, and like they have to kind of think of how to respond to that. Because when you take the mask off, so to speak, and like tell them, yeah, everything you think I am, and you should be afraid of that. Then they're like, oh no, and they don't know what to do with that. So I think that we should get some young guy in Congress, play the optics, bide your time, but when the time comes, your MK Ultra trigger word is recited. You get in there and you sexually harass AOC, and the country's going to be better off because of it.
Come on, John, you're about old enough, right?
Well, I can't. It's true.
Where's
the
lie?
Yeah, you're close.
Tell me that's a bad strategy. Tell me that would not be a net gain.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, you're going to get called all these names anyway. You're going to get called the sexist. You're going to get called the homophobe. You're going to get called the white supremacist. So why not play their game?
Yeah, and it really holds a mirror. By the way, I'm joking or whatever, but it really holds a mirror up to them.
Just caveat that,
or whatever.
Yeah,
or
because
whatever.
what made them so angry with Donald Trump is they like to sort of like masturbate to their self-image as like, true statesmen and, politicians, and we're elites and we're educated. And what Trump did was basically hold a mirror up and say, no, you're not. I'm just going to laugh at you. Like, he wouldn't answer the questions from the reporters and debate them epically with facts and logic. He would just say, no, you're fake news. No, bye-bye. And they couldn't handle that because they're like, I'm not being acknowledged. And my Ivy League degree means nothing to this man. And it's like, yeah, that's epic. It's the same thing. It's like why we have the Science is Gay shirt, for example. You're taking science, this class of experts and intellectuals, and you're criticizing it like a 12-year-old boy. You're not saying, no, that science isn't real. Look at my science on ivermectin. You're just saying, no, science is gay. And you can't refute that because it's like there's not even any intelligence behind it. But it makes them very upset.
I just want to be in your head sometimes.
It's a lot of fun.
I don't.
I have fun.
It's like a hamster wheel.
I know. It never stops.
It never, ever stops.
Someone tried to make fun of me recently.
Or do you not?
I've been very tired this week, actually.
But like, are you one of those people who you can get 4 hours of sleep and you wake up just completely
I
refreshed and you're fine?
I call it e-boy hours.
I think too, Sarah, though, that's a thing in your early 20s where you're just like, I can drink until 5 o'clock in the morning, be up at 7 o'clock, and now I'm at university and I'm writing an essay and I'm doing all these things. And
someone tried to make fun of me this week.
Then you get over 25 and it's just
because I just get excited. I'm talking fast, and they did like an impression of me doing that. And like their whole thing was like, I'm going to talk like this and super monotone and slow and calm because I'm nothing impresses me. And I'm just like a really, relaxed guy. And it was like, I'm having more fun than you. Like, why are you like making fun of my energy, so to speak?
Yeah.
So depressed John or like not happy John compared to this kind of John, I'll take this kind of John.
Oh,
any day
totally
of the week.
agree.
I will take sword wielding,
yes,
clearing his living
every
room
day
to slash things, John.
It's
every
true.
day.
You can't be depressed with a sword. I don't think that's legally allowed.
I think you've only seen depressed John after the car accident. I was very sad.
I've seen tired John and grumpy John quite a bit.
It's true.
But not depressed, John. Not so much, no.
It's true. Because, I was recently turned on to the Watchmen graphic novels by Aldo, because he had seen that movie like 7 times. And he just loves it. And so the other day he was like, "You want to watch it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we watched it, and Rorschach is like very red-pilled, very based. And so I was like immediately projecting myself onto that character. So then I bought the graphic novels and I was reading it. And one of the things that he says is like, never despair, never surrender. And I think that that's very true and important in politics, because like their success really is contingent upon you being in a state of despair or demoralization. Like there's a reason that they take your military, which has forever been one of the staples of like pride for this country, and in particular the right wing, and they have them, release commercials talking about, 2 moms and the daughter and women in the military and things like that. There's a reason they do that. It's to demoralize you. And so as long as you refuse to basically consent to that in whatever capacity you can, we will ultimately win. So never despair, never surrender. It's so important.
Well, John, you know who we are surrendering to? The slug butts.
I don't know. What?
No, I just want to change gear a little bit here, because there are a couple of things that we found on the interwebs today that were disturbing. I don't know if you saw this, Jonathan. I know Sarah did. But there was a video that was posted by Libs of TikTok, if we can grab this, guys, where basically a child... And I don't know, it always weirds me out when parents use their kids as like performative tools. And so this mother who has a TikTok account has her kids on a live, and the child said something quite interesting. Do we have this, Brandon? Can we play this, please? Because this was
white
bizarre.
people that aren't like serial killers like Ted Bundy.
Does your mom say you have to be LGBT? No, I can choose what I want to be, but
Go ahead, Lex. Go ahead. Keep talking. Say what you're saying.
Please.
My mom doesn't matter if I am gay or lesbian or any of that. She doesn't care. All she cares about is that I'm a part of it. And if I'm not a part of it, she'll try to convince me to join it. Because
What are you saying right now?
Facts.
That I would convince you to join what?
The LGBTQIA plus community.
I love the facts.
Facts.
The facts is the
Facts,
best part
Mom.
of that.
I hate facts.
And then you see his brother turn and like try to hide that he's laughing. Oh, is the ending of that
The
makes
left
up
does
for
this
how
all the time,
disturbing
too.
it was.
They habitually employ children in their political marketing, and they try to appeal to this idea of like, oh, it's so obvious, even a child gets it, even a child could understand it. Oh, Greta Thunberg says we shouldn't let the world end, therefore regulate the economy. Oh, even she gets it. And the funniest thing about that, they're really shooting themselves in the foot, because the implication of that is that in order to subscribe to their ideas, you have to be like intellectually retarded and or highly subject to like conformity. And it's like, that's the only way that you could buy into what they're saying. Like, yeah, the child agreeing with you is not the victory that you think it is.
Well, also, too, I think it's really sad that when given an opportunity to actually explain, I think it's bizarre that people are directing questions at a child like this anyway, but when given an opportunity to explain himself, I'm assuming it's a him, I can't tell anymore.
That was a
this
boy.
child is saying that its mother is effectively forcing it to be part of this, this like weird little cult.
Yeah, his mom's grooming him.
Yeah, basically.
His own mother.
And so can we actually pull up, I don't know if you can do that, Brandon, the mom's TikTok, because this is there's obviously a very odd human being, but the more that you go through her videos and the more that you, yeah, and I love how it says queer and queer autistic. It's like,
I was about to say, John's pretty on the money there with the autism part in this one.
Well, seriously though, why do they advertise it like it's something to be proud of? I'm so confused.
Autism?
Well, just the queer, the autist, like they always, I don't know if you've noticed this, but every single time you go to one of their pages, they without question obviously always have pronouns in bio, but then also too, they have to say that they're, that they have DID or that they're autistic or that they have ADHD or something. It's like they have this laundry list of issues that they have to tell you about because somehow that substantiates their positions or whatever.
Yeah, I reject the concept of mental health. More or less. I'm going to do a video on that too. It's just a way fundamentally of pathologizing the human experience. And I think it makes excuses for individual behavior, which has always been what the left has been about, always just making excuses for individual behavior. So it's like, oh, I'm not a bitch, I'm bipolar. It's like, no, you're just a bitch. Like you can't medicalize it. Then it like, oh, well, come on, they can't help it. It's like, no, these things are bad. They're undesirable. The same thing too with like, autism. Like autism is a spectrum. We know this. They always talk about that. But the spectrum isn't quite the way that they describe it. It's more of an autism in a bad way versus autism in a good way. Like when I started hanging out more with Elijah Schaefer, he was like, this kid's really smart. And he oftentimes says things that make people mad. I'm just going to go ahead and say he's autistic. And I was like, you know what? I'll run with it. It's my superpower. I've never been diagnosed, but I guess I'm culturally autistic.
I think there's a difference, though, between giving people a space to legitimately seek help when you need it. Because I have a friend who's bipolar, didn't know for a really long time. And then he finally was honest about what was going on, finally went to see someone, finally got medicated. And a lot of the behavior that he was having that he thought was totally insane, that he couldn't put his finger on, he was like, oh shit, like I have an explanation for a lot of this now. And it was validating for him in the sense that he was like, oh, I'm not an insane person. I actually just have like a chemical imbalance that I'm now fixing. And it's not to say, same thing. It's like when he is being a legitimate crazy person because he's being a dick, fine, fair enough. But when he's having an episode, they don't really have control over that. So
but the problem I think is that the mental health community
it's gone insane.
They've really
taken it right off the rails.
I mean, you get to use that as a crutch every single time so that you don't take responsibility for your actions.
Right, which
and
is
there's
usually
no
problematic.
one to curb them back in because the same professionals who are supposed to be giving them help are actually just enabling all of these behaviors.
So then I guess my question becomes, where's the middle ground then? Because I do think that it's important that people, can seek particularly medications for, issues like bipolar, schizophrenia, or whatever the case may be, because those are actually like serious mental issues. I do think that should be something that we shouldn't, hide from and shy away from, because seeking assistance for that means that you have people committing less, crimes. Because I'm just so obsessed with this true crime YouTube channel, and I literally watched probably 4 videos in a row of people with undiagnosed mental illnesses going psychotic and doing bad things. Not that that's like a super common, part of having schizophrenia or what have you, but once you get medicated for those things, life becomes a lot more manageable. So you are managing some of the negative consequences of those mental illnesses. But yeah, just being like, oh, I have ADHD and I can't concentrate, so therefore I can't do my schoolwork, like things like that I think have become so commonplace, and they do excuse a lot of shitty behavior when they probably shouldn't. I agree with you, John. It's like, you just suck, actually.
I think they also a lot of the mental health professionals don't have a lot of training in like things like narcissism, and they can't properly spot someone who used to be very close to me, I'll just say, was diagnosed as bipolar when I was married to them, and I'm no longer married to them. I'll just put it that way. And it was always like, I don't think that's it. I think he's just a narcissist. And it's very, very, very misdiagnosed, because even the professionals who have paid the government to be able to be licensed in this area aren't really getting taught, again, all of the full context of things.
Yeah, I think bipolar is misdiagnosed, I think 2/3 of the time statistically. And that's the other thing too, like you're saying about these medical professionals. Doctors have never been intelligent.
No.
The last 2 years should really they really haven't. We think that because it's a soothing thought. We like to think that the people with whom we trust our health are the smartest people. That's not true. They literally go to school and they memorize textbooks that were paid for by pharmaceutical companies, by these like medical companies, and that's the information they know. That's why they always have laptops. Like, oh, I guess I'll Google this. Oh, this is what's wrong. Here, take these feel normal pills.
They memorized facts.
Yeah.
And they had a big pharma rep come to their office and explain to them why their patients need said pill.
No, it's the biggest farce in terms of human health is like the idea that like, oh, the doctor will fix you up is just so silly. But even with the chemical imbalance thing, I'm sure that can be true, but largely that kind of negates the reality of neuroplasticity, like your brain's ability to adapt. So oftentimes after trauma, for example, your brain will start to rewire itself towards like being, having that chemical imbalance. And so, for example, someone close to me was claiming that they were bipolar. And so finally we got this person tested, and then, oh, look, a chemical imbalance and things like that. And my opinion was always, I don't believe that this is actually the case. I watched this person, learn that if they always took their behavior to the extreme, eventually they would get what they want. This person was always smoking a lot of marijuana, which I know that it's like curing cancer or whatever, but if you read the actual science on marijuana, it induces mental illness, particularly psychosis. And so that's what, in my opinion, was going on with this person's brain. Like it was rewiring such that was going to be the case. And so I don't think the chemical imbalance is exactly like, oh, you're just like this. Your brain is an organ and it adapts to its environment. So if something happens to you that is bad, your brain is going to do that to like warn you, hey, this should probably change. And I don't believe that medication, probably even in 95% of circumstances, is what's actually necessary.
I guess this is Sydney John Disagree Day. I get what you were saying here. Like, for sure.
It should be a holiday. It happens so infrequently that when it does happen, it's such a special occasion.
I guess I guess the thing, right, is that maybe the problem here is so many mental illnesses have been abused because it's fun and it's sexy to be able to say, I have this condition, that's why I act like this, or I have this condition, therefore, now I'm in this different echelon of society where you must treat me a specific way. But there are plenty of people who have these mental, like someone really close to me in my family is schizophrenic and is like off the rails, doesn't take medication, was forcibly institutionalized a couple years ago, was not helpful, wouldn't recommend doing that to someone. And now she just doesn't take her medication and just doesn't really operate like a normal human being. And she does perfectly fine, I guess. But I don't know if that's really living. And who am I to say, right? Like I'm not in her shoes. I don't know. But I think that to dismiss the fact that a lot of people do suffer from these illnesses, particularly too, we're living in a society where nothing's really great. Your water's not great, your food's not great, the environment that you live in is not great. I mean, even the air is not great. Like I love it when Dallas here, when people are like, oh yeah, the air quality's, you get these alerts, the air quality is shit. And it's like, okay, great. Can't wait to just breathe in fumes. It's fantastic. Yeah. And so you factor all these things in and then you end up with a really, really sick population. Now, is that to say that there's a justification for some of the behavior that comes out? Like, again, I watch these TikTok people. And, that's why because even on my channel, I made a video, TikTok is a mental illness, mental illness factory, because it is, because you have these people who are basically taking on other people's illnesses and saying that they have them when in reality they don't, because it's fun and it's cool and it's interesting to be sick. And it's not fun, cool, and interesting to be sick. So I don't know where the middle ground here is, John. And I certainly, I don't have the answers, but I don't think dismissing it, because Elijah does this too. He says, going to therapy is gay or whatever, force your feelings down and whatever. I don't agree with that. Because I think that I think that some things really do need to be addressed.
I agree. So the first thing you said about the way that we're literally like breeding mental illness and sickness in society, I totally agree with that. The reason that I have to come out and say, mental health as a whole, therapy as a whole is bad is I have to kind of overcorrect. So I acknowledge completely that there are circumstances where therapy is good. The problem is, therapy is now marketed, like if you look at like the volume of that conversation, the majority is everyone should be going to therapy. Everyone should be going to therapy. It's like, why is that? Well, because it can't ever be wrong. If it's not working, you just have to go to more therapy and things like that.
Or a different therapist, or find the one that suits you.
Exactly. Yeah. And particularly with men, honestly, nothing makes me more angry than the discussion around toxic masculinity and masculinity in general, because what they want to do there is tell you like, men just aren't allowed to talk about their emotions. And that's why all of a sudden they're just killing themselves in record numbers. And it's like, that's not why. Men have always been held to a standard where you're supposed to maintain some degree of stoicism and not complain and things like that. But it's only recently where all of a sudden we decided that we should just start blowing our heads off. And so there's got to be a reason why. It can't be toxic masculinity. In terms of masculinity, we've never had less of it in society. Yet inversely, you've seen the suicide rate like skyrocket. It's like, why is this? I think 77% of all suicides are like white men. That's a problem.
I do want to note, though, the majority of people who try to commit suicide are women. They're just not very good at it.
Yeah, you guys just aren't as good at it. Because women,
but women try to commit suicide at a higher rate than men do.
Women will do something for attention and count it like, I tried. And men are just, we wake up, pot of black coffee, and we get the job done.
That's so sad, though, to think about. Like, I know that you like to take the piss out of like serious situations, but it's so fucked up to think that's generally what happens. People just are like, yep, I'm out.
Yeah, no, it's very sad.
We outie, yeah.
But so that's why I don't like therapy, is because not only do they want you to be weak, because again, and it totally misunderstands masculinity. Like I've never had a conversation with a friend where I've been like, hey, this really messed up thing happened. And they're going to be like, what are you, being a pussy about it? And it's like, that's always the, kind of the high school bully, right? The guy who's insecure and who wants to like beat you down for feeling upset about something. That being said though, if you are actually being a little bitch, so to speak, oftentimes like your friends will be like, dude, like come on, like get over it. Like it's not a big deal. And that's important. And so what tends to happen, and I'm young enough to remember being in high school, so I can remember this happening. There were guys in our group who couldn't hang, so to speak. They were guys who couldn't deal with the verbal sparring. And I'm not even kidding. I remember watching this one kid walk away from our lunch table almost every day and go sit at a table of girls that were also friends. They were kind of like our, symmetrical groups or asymmetrical group. Because he couldn't handle us, not even insulting him in a mean way. And my fans will recognize this. We used to say stuff to him like, bro, you look like pizza, bro. Just the stupidest stuff. And he'd be like, whatever. And he'd just storm off. And now you look at this kid and he's not doing so well. So I think that's a very healthy masculine dynamic. And a lot of guys who are insecure and can't handle that, now all of a sudden they pursue arts and media and they publish things talking about, well, this is what toxic masculinity is. And it's just not. So it's not only that they want to get you more used to being weak and this is happening, I'm going to talk about it. They also want to know what that weakness is and use it against you. Yeah. Like your therapist or even like the broader complex or whatever. So that's why I'm against therapy. And then what was the other thing I was going to be against because it was funny? There was another thing. I forgot what it was.
I don't think you're supposed to say that part out loud, John.
You said the quiet part loud.
Think it.
John had a filter. He wouldn't really be John.
This is
True.
true.
It's fair.
This
And
is
I
true.
say it all the time.
I don't
It's
know.
part of his charm.
I think therapy is one of these. It's like a crutch. It's like a societal crutch, and I fully admit to that. And I'm not suggesting that every person and their brother should be going to therapy to seek assistance.
Well, therapists can't actually prescribe you anything. They just are there to talk.
Right.
Only
Yes,
psychiatrists can
psychiatrists would
actually
be the-
prescribe you
I mean,
medication.
and I want to be clear about this, though. I think that the feel-good pills or the happy pills or whatever you referred to them as before, John, I think that they suck. And in fact, so many people that are really close to me have been on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication, and it ruins them. Like it actively ruins them. And, I think that the fact that the solution that we have to problems is like, here's a pill, we'll fix it. Here you go, enjoy.
No, it's so disgusting too, because those are something that were invented to basically be like an emergency. Okay, we need to make this person into a zombie so that they don't kill themselves temporarily while we figure out what's really going on. And now, like I saw a TikTok recently because Elijah likes to stay up until 3 sending me TikToks, and it was like this.
He finds the weirdest
That is
shit.
not a lie. He'll
Yeah.
just send like creepy
I
crap
know.
at like 4 a.m. and I'm like, go to sleep.
I know. I'm like, what were you doing awake?
So he sent me one, and it's like this family of white women. And it goes around talking about, this one's on SSRIs, this one's on all this.
saw this.
And I was like so disgusted by this. Dude, white women, man, what are you guys doing? You guys are just poisoning yourselves
Wait,
with
hold on a
birth
second.
control, SSRIs.
Don't look at me.
John,
That's not me.
It's because no one tells you, though.
But
no
hold
one
on,
tells you.
it's true. That's true. But hold on, because I seem to recall, if this is the one that I saw, there was at least one man in there. It was the whole family.
Yeah, no.
And there were men in there. There was at least one man in there as well. So males were included.
It's true.
But again, that goes back to the professionals that we are supposed to be trusting. Are like, they don't know shit.
Well, they get kickbacks too, though.
I know.
That's the worst
they get
part
the
about
kickbacks.
it. Mhm.
They are only taught what the government deems appropriate for them to learn. And the people who would be bringing up the things that you brought up earlier, which are the water is shit, the environment is shit. There are all of these things that we are putting, not me, but many people who don't know the difference are putting into their bodies that are really harming them. All of the people who would dare point that out are called quacks and left off the face of the planet.
That's why even alternate therapies are not for some reason seen as like sustainable or we've talked about this on the show before, but people, I'm a big proponent of acupuncture, for example, and I think acupuncture for people who have anxiety or depression or some of these other illnesses, I think that it is a perfectly fine thing to use to try to get over that, and I know people who've successfully used it to do that, and I think that a lot of these things you can pursue are great. And for some reason, when you bring it up, people are like, you're a crazy person.
Yeah.
No, you just want to stick needles in your face? Fuck you. And it's like, okay, just take the pills for the rest of your life and
Literally.
enjoy.
Right.
Have
Do you have
fun.
any idea what you're putting in your
with
body?
chemicals
Yep.
because they like told you this would make you feel normal. And these people are still depressed. They're like zombies. They're barely people.
Yeah, they do get zonked out. Yeah, my I don't know if my brother would like me saying this, but he was on antidepressants for like a hot second, and he was taking a shit ton of a dosage, and yeah, he pursued acupuncture for 6 months, and he got him off of it. He was a zombie to the point where I used to look at him and think, I don't even know who I'm interacting with right now. He was vacant. There, he was just gone completely. You'd be interacting and you'd be like, oh shit, you're not even attending. You're somewhere else completely. I don't even know if he was somewhere else or he just like receded into himself. Sorry, Taylor, don't get mad.
Yeah,
at
they
me.
don't even want to address the issue because they have not only a financial incentive not to, but also because they can only enslave the population, so to speak, when we're like in that state of despair.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't want to talk about how the average American is eating 1 credit card's worth of plastic every week because of the microplastics in our water, in our food. They're finding microplastics in brain tissue, in placentas now. It's like disgusting. You literally have plastic in your body. They don't want to talk about, corn subsidies and getting everyone to eat corn syrup and all this like literal garbage that people are putting into their bodies. They're just like, oh, and then of course, in tandem to that, you have the fact that like every metric by which you would measure a happy and prosperous society, all of that has become increasingly difficult for younger people to achieve. And all of a sudden we're all depressed and their solution to that is, oh, we'll just take these feel normal pills. You just have a chemical imbalance, which I'm sure is true again, because of those things that are literally in mass altering the collective endocrine systems of society. But again, it's like, oh, the solution to this, more chemicals. That's what you need.
Well, and John, you're talking about, we have a government regulatory agency who is supposed to oversee this, the FDA, who is allowing all of these things to happen, right? But definitely trust them when they say that a shot is approved for you to take.
Well, when my cool friends and I infiltrate the FDA, we're gonna put a stop to that. So I wouldn't worry about it. She laughs.
And by the way,
first they laugh.
And by the way, I'm just gonna
Articulated. It's
go
great.
ahead and just come out as like full force, like it's not just the COVID one.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
You know what I was thinking?
This is a longstanding problem that's finally getting a light shown on it, but it has
Sarah
existed for a
mean
very
by
long
this?
time.
What did she mean by this?
Interesting. I was thinking about this the other day, how since I've been pursuing fixing this autoimmune thing and fixing my diet and all this sort of stuff, I was talking with a friend and I was like, why don't you just try cutting like, I don't know, wheat out of your diet or gluten out of your diet, just as like one thing. And he said to me, well, I like it. And, you know, I don't have any like health issues. I don't feel bad. And I was like, you've never felt normal. So how would you know what it feels like to
Literally.
not feel bad?
100% wheat, dairy. There are so many things that people
Soy.
are, they're constantly ingesting
Like,
and they
why
have
am I
no
always-
idea that it's connected to their health
Why
issues.
am I always tired? Like people lived for thousands of years and didn't have these problems. You're not supposed to be eating that stuff.
Yep.
And the rule in our household is simply overconsume that which the regime tells you not to consume. Meat, red meat in
We
particular.
just talked about this.
Butter, salt. It's all, look at me. I'm glowing. It's doing very well
Look at their
for us.
bullshit food pyramid. You're supposed to consume, what, 12
le-
servings
of
of
bread?
carbs?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's total bullshit.
You can swear, Sarah.
I know. I just
can't-
get
you don't
so
have to
used
It's
be on
very
our own show.
unbecoming.
and I
It's
get
very
mean
unbecoming.
emails from management when I swear on my show. So I'm
This is
traumatized.
my show where you're
It's
allowed.
fucking bullshit.
There
Sydney.
we go.
It's
Beautiful.
just
No, but it's true.
And,
It is
and,
true.
and again, it's like, I know where this was not what we meant to talk about, but like you look at the rate of obesity in this country.
Yeah.
And it's like, gee, are you guys going to connect the dots yet that these people have no fucking clue what they're talking about and they're telling you all of these things and you're doing them and look at you?
Do you kiss your feminist mother with that mouth?
I don't. I mean, yes, I do. On the cheek and yes, I do. And she doesn't like it.
forehead.
She actually just
Very
retired
lovely.
from being a pastor. So imagine like
Oh,
my
no.
mom
Female pastor.
as an associate pastor having a daughter that like curses this much. She's always just like, "Oh, Sarah, please."
You'd fit
stop."
in Australia though, so it's fine.
I
Is that a
what?
good thing?
You would fit in Australia
Oh.
though, so it's fine. You can just fly on down. Yes.
I mean, I
it
don't
is.
really
Thank
think I
you.
want to go there right
I
now.
love Aussies are our greatest
I don't
ally.
wanna go there right
yeah,
now.
I'm simply saying right
Unironically,
now.
we actually are. Like
I know.
every single time America's in a conflict, you drag the Aussies in and then use us as cannon fodder.
Hey, that's divisive rhetoric. I'm trying to extend an olive branch.
The Brits do it too. It's
and it's true.
historically the Aussies always get used as cannon fodder. And every single person I've ever spoken to who is not in the Australian military, so like people in the American military or in, the British one, whatever, they're always like, Aussie soldiers are without question the best soldiers.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
they're
really
just
like
badass.
Australia in terms of like geopolitical allies. I really like Australia. Big fan of the UK in particular, Great Britain. So
The greatest of Britons.
it's true. They ruled the world, man. That was sick.
For 1 second, and then it just all fell apart.
Well, no. I don't know about 1 second, but they had a nice. It was actually, I think, in my opinion, the greatest empire, and in terms of European history. But it just makes me so sad because literally, what the British Empire was a bunch of white guys exploring the world. Oh, you guys don't have these? Here, let us teach you about how to do this. Oh, you want to get into heaven? Here, read this book. And it's like, we're demonized. We get no thanks. It's a thankless job, I'll tell you. And they want to talk, colonization is it's mean and it's bad. It's like, no, it's not. We raised your standard of living because we were like nice people. Do you think that would happen if the roles were reversed, by the way?
Probably not.
No, it would not.
There's a comedian I really like called Dylan Moran, and he does this bit about how the Brits took over basically everything. And he basically, he says that, and I obviously I'm not as funny as Dylan Moran, but you guys are welcome to look this up. He says that the Brits would go into a place and they'd be like, yeah, hello, Mfubi. Yes. Okay. How about I give you these beads and then I take all of this land. Okay. The beads, you take the beads. There you go. Here's the pretty beads. And now I own all of this. And I think it's such a good representation of that's kind of how the Brits did stuff. They're like, yo, we're just going to take this. Here you go. Here's some rice. You enjoy. Have a good
Are we
life.
are we really supposed to pretend that the world would be a better place if it weren't controlled by perhaps the most advanced civilizations that we've ever seen? Like, do we really want like America to look like, it was under the Indians? Also, I hate the term too, Native Americans, because there was no America. We came and we tamed the beast, this untamed continent, and we did that. We built what at one point was and could still be the greatest country in the history of the world. And it's like, I'm a Native American, actually. You're a Native American. Well, no, you're not. In Gonzales, you're. So maybe it is just me here, the resident Native American.
Here, John.
Yeah, when you anchor babies, we're gonna.
You're an anchor baby?
No, I'm
Are
not
you?
an anchor baby. No.
Yeah.
Both of my parents were born
That's
here.
the founding stock, isn't it? You had Smith, Adams, Jameson, and Gonzales. That was the founding stock of America.
Well,
Sydney Walton. That's a little bit better.
Listen,
I'm glad you're not an anchor baby, because that would call some things into question.
Would I get kicked off the show?
I'm
not an anchor baby. My grandparents came here legally, by the way. Thank you very much.
There are not that many Watsons.
I want to
in
be
this
invaded,
country.
but I want to be invaded legally, not illegally. Legally, right?
I mean, I realize you would much prefer that I not be here, John.
And no, I did. You know what? Okay, I'm still a little upset because of the earlier comments about white women, and I'm just, it's a tough market out there, and I think I
thought your thing was not criticizing your own race.
Whoa. No.
Whoa. Because you said to me, I don't want to out you.
Oh no, bro.
You made a comment where you said that you're not going to participate in making jokes about other white cultures, like, European cultures, and make fun of them because you're not going to subvert.
That wasn't what you're saying. I did say that.
Does that extend to white women and to
it
white
does.
people?
I'm frustrated, but it's true. No more brother wars. And the reason I said that,
your car was smashed by a white woman.
Stand your ground, John. You're right. These white women are the problem.
No,
it's kind of true. But the reason I say that is not because I'm like a white supremacist.
Maybe we can just say that women are the problem.
No,
is that better?
Specifically white women. You're Australian. You get passed. Don't worry.
Honestly, I don't see this type of stuff from Hispanic girls. Okay. I didn't even know that Mexican people existed until I moved to Texas. Like, I never really interacted with them.
What?
I knew about it or whatever, but you get down to Texas and I love Mexican people. Like, they just don't.
Thank you.
But it's like you look at them in the terms of their attitudes towards things, and they're basically indistinguishable now from white working class voters in terms of their social I'm serious. They're even more in support by, I think it was 1% of some of Trump's more nationalistic far right policies than even white guys are. So I'm totally for that. Latinos por Trump. I'm right there. But
do you like Mexican food?
About that. I love Mexican food. Well, I like Tex-Mex. I never got the appeal of Mexican food.
I don't
feel
get
like
Mexican food.
You take a laxative, dip it in hot sauce, it's the same thing.
Legitimately, it's not. I don't get
had the right Mexican food.
My point is,
before I get and I want to cry.
Before I get canceled for being a white supremacist or whatever, my point there with refusing to criticize European cultures wasn't because I'm like a white supremacist or whatever, and they're exempt from criticism.
No, I think
it's because.
Yeah, what you said though made total sense. I just want to say that I'm not trying to out you. Continue. Explain your point.
Well,
Sorry.
hold on. Someone in the chat is so my grandmother was Spanish and my grandfather is Mexican. Was Mexican. He's no longer here. They were accusing
She's not
me
an anchor baby. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jonathan.
As I was saying,
didn't mean to interrupt
the point
you.
of that was to say that racist jokes never stopped being funny. But now the only way that you can have them is if they're making fun of European countries. Or there was that Super Bowl ad, I think 2 years ago, and it was Will Ferrell, and he's like, we got to beat Norway. They're so weird. And it's like, okay, how about we got to beat Mexico? Or we got to beat China? They would never say something like that because those are non-white countries.
Right.
The same way, I've done this a million times, so I apologize for that, but I make fun of the French, or I make fun of Canadians. It's they say, hey, the French, they surrendered. The French ruled the world. They have a much greater history than America. You could make the argument. I would never, of course, but you could make that argument. And it's you can't just fall victim to that. Or even now, you look at the most popular memes. They're all this is what Italian people's blood looks like. And it's pasta sauce. And it's stop it, okay? No more brother wars. They're just trying to make racist jokes politically correct. And actually, if you want to function in a multi-ethnic society, I think you have to acknowledge those differences and poke fun at each other. Black people tend to do this. White people tend to do this. And it's sick. But pretending that those differences don't exist, I think builds a lot of tension between people.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't trying to out you when you said that to
you
me.
Were.
Because you
were.
told me that, and I thought about it, and I was like, no, he's right. He's right, because
many are saying this.
It's accepting that poking fun at white people is totally acceptable, and you can piss on them as much as you want, but when it comes to other races, they're a big no, you're not allowed. Asian people like to fry rye, and they like to jump ring.
And it's funny
and
too.
It's
well,
okay.
even Asians,
okay
those are white people light. Why don't you do a different accent there, Sydney? I dare.
I can. I would do an Indian one if I could. I don't know, that their food is also not good. I don't understand. Why do you eat with your hands?
And it's true.
I don't get it.
All the criticisms they have too of white people, white people are pretty neat. We kind of keep to ourselves, and all their criticisms are always basically calling. We're neat. All our the criticisms they have of us are always that basically that we're lame. White people don't season their food, and it's okay, you guys don't know how to grow food. So it's if you really want to open that can of we can play ball, but we have to.
I want that clip. Someone clip that immediately.
That's true.
No, but you're right. I mean, this is the thing though, is that this always shits me to death when people say, Let's take the Sistine Chapel, for example. Phenomenal. Amazing. Ridiculous. You go to other countries, like, you know, you go to France and you see all the beautiful structures, and, you know, you see the cathedrals, and like, you're right. I mean, the history there is so, there's so much history. There's so many things you can see. When I was in the UK and I went to see all the Roman ruins, and that was amazing. You know, I went and saw Hadrian's Wall and sat on Hadrian's Wall, which, given, you know, what they were trying to achieve at the time, amazing. All the history is amazing. And I love all this stuff that was created in many of these, you know, European countries. And it really annoys me how people are like, okay, well, we can't say how fantastic and amazing these things are because, well, that kind of sounds like you're being critical of, you know, the mud huts in Africa that are also very amazing, because I'm impressed that you can do that in the sun. Congratulations for building a mud hut. And someone said to me, and I'm not going to out them, they said, Sid, when you go to Africa, what do you go to see? I'm like, I don't know, I guess the animals, like you go to see the lions and then you safari, whatever. And they're like, okay, when you go to like Italy, what do you go to see? Well, the history, the monuments, the structures. Yeah. I'm like, are we going to say that these are the same? Because I don't think they are.
I want to say something not good right now, but I'm not going to.
It just bothers me because, yeah, I mean, there are really cool things about other cultures. Like, for example, you know, in Asia, there's so many phenomenal things that they did, so many beautiful structures. I mean, this is obviously the way by which I value things is based on what you did. I'm very like utilitarian like that. What did you do? Yeah. Which, you know, not everybody's like that. I acknowledge that. But yeah, you go to Asia and you see these beautiful things, even Japan, you know, the beautiful things that they've done. And I don't understand how we think that all cultures are created equal, because they're not.
It's so funny too, because no one like thinks about this just to like, but it's like because you kind of grow up in Western countries and you just kind of think, oh, this is just our system. This is how we do things. And literally, it is not an exaggeration to say, like, of course, you know, we made money off of it, but we literally did colonize the world and it was to their benefit. Like, they had an increased standard of living. After we left, it went to crap. And it's like, we did that because fundamentally, like, we're a more benevolent and kind of generous type of society. And it's like, when you push us into a corner and you're like, actually, you're evil, and then we're like, wait a minute, is that true? And then you think about it, then you start comparing things and you're like, well, I don't know if that's exactly the case. And then when you say something like, you know, Sydney just said, which I would never say something like that, you know, saying all cultures are not equal, very, very unbecoming of you. But it's like, you start to say things like that and they're like, well, that's racist. You can't say that. But it's like, it's not racist. I mean, it's just like, true. Tell me it's not true. And they have to say, well, the reason that Africa was never Wakanda is because of colonization and things like that. And it's just like, I don't know if that's exactly
Well, you could
the
argue
case.
that, I mean, colonization gave you the opportunity to be like Wakanda, but you didn't take the, you're just wired differently.
That's what's so annoying,
and you
too.
didn't take the opportunity.
You have to have things like Wakanda, and you have to have these things like these narratives of like racism and oppression and everything to like excuse that behavior, which, like we said earlier, is like what liberalism and leftism is, just excusing the behavior of like different groups of people or even individuals. And it's like, it's just...
I'm okay with acknowledging the fact that different groups of people have done things that I don't find impressive. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with acknowledging that most of the things that I find impressive come from white European countries. I'm okay with admitting that. I don't think that makes me a racist. I don't think that it makes anybody who agrees with me a racist. And I don't think that when I do acknowledge that there are cultures who have done really fucking cool shit that I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I don't think that acknowledging that makes me anything. I don't think that just like calling it like it is wrong. I'm really tired of playing by the rules, playing in the framework, in the moral framework of people I actually fundamentally disagree with. So yeah, I mean, I think that white European countries have done a fucking hell of a lot more than some of the other cultures that are on the planet that I'm supposed to apparently acknowledge and act like they're exactly the same. They're not.
Yeah. One thing too I will say about the French in particular that I really like, because I'm part Irish and part French. And then I was doing a lot of like reading about European history, and I became much more impressed with the French than the Irish. And so now I'm like, fuck it. I'm going back to my mom's maiden name, Viencourt, like no more Doyle. I'm French now. I'm identifying as French. Because one thing that they in particular were able to achieve, because Europe is declining, we know that.
Yep.
But the French have achieved a much more authentic form of decadence than countries like England, for example. Mm-hmm. So like, if you understand a decadent society, it's like a society that's becoming, you know, too comfortable in itself and it's like declining. The French have been able to achieve this in a way that's almost admirable. Like French decadence could be understood as, you know, almost like leisure and, you know, like lots of very nice food and wine and music and art. English decadence is much more materially fixated, which corrodes the soul at a higher rate of acceleration. You know, a decadent English society is going to be much more fixated, and we see this in America because we're founded by those types of people, like, you know, products and things like that. Whereas the French aren't necessarily as concerned with that type of consumerism. They're more concerned about just kind of like, you know, kind of like sinking into the quicksand, so to speak, as opposed to like, just staring at a screen and then killing yourself.
But the French too, though, they've had a long history of that, and it's really, really ingrained in their culture. That I know what you're talking about. It's they're almost like boneless.
No, and
they're
it's funny
like
too.
Wobbly, boneless people.
There was a period of time where I would buy
into.
I would buy into these arguments about the French. Well, they don't work nearly as hard as Americans. And you look at like wages in America, they're stagnant. It's like that's not necessarily a virtue. Hard work, meritocracy, that's all good, but we don't have like a fair system right now. Like we should be getting paid higher wages. The solution to that is not to get the government to get involved in the market and say, minimum wage. The solution is to secure the border because that's what's depressing wages. Also, the labor market, you let women get into the workforce, the labor supply has doubled, wages are now cut. Seriously, every social revolution that's ever happened in this country has been financed by big business and by bankers. If you look at who was funding original feminism, getting women into the workforce, it was because big business knew that if they doubled the labor supply, they could lower wages and they would save money that way.
Yeah.
Well, someone had to build the bombs in World War II.
It is sad, though, what's happening to Europe, especially. Because, I have this preoccupation with Scandinavia. Bad. And
really?
Yeah, wow. Sydney's obsessed with Vikings? No.
I never would have
so
guessed
much
that about
that
you.
she styles her hair and shit after them. God, who would have thought? No, but it's sad because I look at a lot of what's going on and it just makes me depressed. Because, I think the thing is once people tell you that you need to sell your soul, and that's kind of I think that's kind of true of what's happened, particularly in Europe. They tell you enough times how shit you are and how bad you are and how, looking the way that you look is a negative and yada, yada, yada. And they go, well, your country's actually, you're not allowed to have a white country. No, it has to be diluted with all these other people. And you erode someone's sense of self and then the culture follows.
Yeah, try doing that. Try going to Africa and
It's very
complaining
sad.
about lack of diversity, or try going to China and doing that.
Well, you never would. And also the Chinese are arguably the most racist people. They hate foreigners regardless of what you look like. They don't want you coming into their shop.
It's true. They are ethno-nationalists. The Han Chinese are incredibly racist. And this is why, I've advocated as almost a plan B, so to speak, if we can't get white women under control. Asian women, particularly Chinese women, when we get conquered by the Chinese, if you don't want your kids to be genocided, if your kid is part Chinese, you might have a little bit of a better chance there. That's a joke. That's a joke. It's called We Do a Little Joking. Yes, it is a joke. Relax.
Alrighty.
I think you really it would be helpful to give out tips for how to survive when our Chinese
genocide.
overlords take over.
We're not going to give up because we can understand that the men in this country are the descendants of George Washington and of Robert E. Lee, heroes, great men.
I think there's cooler people that people are descended from.
In America?
Yeah.
Like who?
Well, if you think of if most people here have some sort of Irish, English, Scottish ancestry.
I agree with that.
William Wallace.
I agree
Y'all
with
are
that.
descended from William Wallace. Who's someone cool that was an Irish person who did a thing?
But, unfortunately,
I don't know any Irish people.
But what I was going to say, if you don't let me finish my point without interrupting, is European men have the same thing because they have a much longer history just in terms of the timeline than we do, which is why I have actually a greater faith in the ability of Europe to make a comeback, at least parts of it, than I do for America, because they have just a longer period of history from which to take inspiration. Ask an American, what are we about? A lot of them are going to give you, I would say the majority will give you an answer that is basically like a caricature. Like we're about bald eagles and freedom and shooting guns and blowing stuff up and girls and they're wearing bikinis with American flags on them. It's like, that's not what a culture is about necessarily. And, there's a guy running for president right now in France, Zemmour, I think his name is Zemmour. I am so inspired by this guy because he is saying things that are just so on the money and he's getting more popular. And it's like, you look at French men and they're like, yeah, they produced an intellectual class that has basically been responsible for the corruption of the world. Whatever. But it's like, they're also like, I am descended from Napoleon. And it's like things like that. These are important things. Understanding the roots and the heritage is a great source of inspiration.
I so don't find that the French are like, I am descended from Napoleon. They're not. They're really not. The French, no. I fully disagree.
Okay, I don't know. You and your experiences with men leading to just
political. I have lived en France, so you would think that.
Tu habites en France?
Oui, c'est ça. Sacre bleu. No, literally, no one says that. Can I just say that? I hate it when people are like, "Oh, bleu bleu, sacre." Shut up. Just shut up. Please eat a rock or something. I don't know. Beg it.
Wow.
Eat a whole rock. Alrighty. No, Jonathan, you make a good point, but I also think too that you got to remember they've been eroded. Their culture. These cultures have been eroded now for so long and they've been shat on for so long by their own leaders that it's really sad. I don't know if I'm sure you do. You probably get messages from people, for example, who are in Sweden that are like, yeah, they tell us all the time how shit you are because you're white. So I don't know, I've just kind of accepted it now. And they look at Americans and they think you're crazy. They think you're insane. Your real right-wingism, they think is batshit. They're like, that is far right in our country. And to us, I feel like I'm fairly moderate a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And they think you're off the rails crazy. So that tells you how far left they are.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it's just a culturally different understanding of what like right and left mean. Like, you know, a person in France might be like very right wing, but then all of a sudden, if they saw like Americans, you know, dual wielding AR-15s, they'd be like, that is crazy. So I think that there is a lot of overlap, but it's also different in a lot of ways. Are you gossiping again?
No, I'm just, I love when the conversations are like genuinely good, but I always want to read the supers, obviously. And so I was just saying I should probably move to supers.
I will make my final point, which is that I agree with you.
I'll give you the floor.
Please, John.
Thank you.
Hurry up.
I'll wait for silence.
Well, that's fine. We can just go to the supers then.
Yeah, everyone wants to hear what Sara Gonzales wants. John Doyle, shut up. Everyone wants to hear the new take from Sara.
Honestly, all the supers are about John anyway, so it's like...
I didn't even say I had a point. I said we'll move to the supers.
The last thing I wanted to say is that if you ask a Frenchman like what French culture is, I think they will give you a more accurate answer than the average American. And I think a lot of things that the American will say are things that are actually, or things that have actually contributed to the decline in American culture. Like even now you look at immigrants who come over, the way that they assimilate to American culture is not the apple pies and the picket fences. It's they go to university and they learn about gender theory and like all of these things. So it's like now they've assimilated to the American culture in that they subscribe to the anti-culture and think that like America's evil. So fix fast. You know, it's tumultuous. It really is.
I guess we'll move on to the supers, which by the way, I don't have access to.
Well, okay, guys. So given that Sara doesn't have access, so it's just me reading them, and you guys know I can't read. I might not get to them all. Apologies.
Blame Elijah.
I'm gonna blame Elijah.
I could not get to it on his
That's what I'm saying. You just can't trust women, and that's what I'm saying. You know, just relax.
That's the best impression of him I've actually heard.
You know, I've been told that my Elijah impression is pretty on the money. The key to the Elijah impression is you want to get a little bit of an underbite and then kind of talk with a lisp a little bit and then just always seem like you're just so done with anything. Even if it's the simplest thing like, hey, Elijah, you have a job to do. Everyone's just, you know, I'm just going to go to Chick-fil-A. I just don't have time for this today. You know, everyone's just...
He's got the pitch right and everything. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
If you can get a little higher voice, I think.
No, but that's what I'm saying. You know, you kind of... I want to get into this. And
oh, my God. Oh, I love that, man. All righty, guys. Like I said, I won't be able to get to all of them. I don't think I'm going to give it a red hot crack, but don't hold your breath. Alrighty. Noah Fox says, Jared Leto is the Antichrist, potentially. Martin number 1 says, Queen Sydney, will you ever go on Chrissy Mayer's Simpcast podcast? It would be amazing to see you interact with other smart women. Eventually, she always does it on Sundays, so I just want to sleep on a Sunday. And also, Sarah's a very smart woman. Is that why we're giggling? Because of Sara? No? Okay.
Just a happy guy.
John wants to go on Simpcast, too.
I would love to.
He's just not getting...
Me arguing with politics about a group of women, there's nothing better. There's nothing
wow,
better in the world.
Someone saying I'm not smart. I've never heard that one before, guys.
Jake Dog says, I love Elisha and Squib Me. Bram Don, okay, I guess, too. Well, thank you. Restore Data says, hey, Elijah/Sid, did you watch the meltdown on G4 TV a couple days ago with Frosk and Adam Sassler bringing politics into gaming is a big no? Couldn't agree more. Yes, I did see it. I'm sure Jonathan saw it. I'm sure.
Jonathan saw the clip, but he did not watch it.
Dude, every time I tried, it was like 4 minutes long. I tried like 5 times, and I just halfway in, I was like, and I just zone out. And I asked her.
What was it?
People cliff noted it for me on Twitter because I asked. I was like, can someone just tell me what's happening here? Because I don't want to listen to this.
What were the cliff notes?
So basically, the blonde girl who's called whatever, I don't know.
Frosk or some
lady
weird, I don't know. She looks like a former boy band member who's like gone to rehab a few times.
Seriously, I was like, do you eat food? I don't know. So she got cross because she was saying that women don't exist to basically be objectified by men. And so that when people are being critical of her, often they are more mean to her than they are to her male counterparts. And she was basically like, if you don't like what we have to say and you don't like what we're doing, don't watch. So it was basically just like a rant about how women in the space are like just as valuable as men and the male watchers are just really sexist. Cliff noted. You're welcome.
Why are you looking at me?
I was just waiting for your smart ass comment.
So was I actually.
You know, you make a lot of smart comments, and I've said that all the time. I mean, every third thing you say, I'm always like, so true, Sara. So I don't understand why I'm getting looks.
22-year-old John is the authority on life. Did you not know that?
It's true.
Yeah, I know.
What you're saying is true. Your tone suggests that you don't know that it's true, but what you're saying is true.
I would never tell a lie. Never ever tell a lie.
You will rue the day you disrespect our future leader.
Unironically the case.
Well, maybe we've gone on our date tonight. Then I'll get an earful about it. It'll be great. Tristan Nord said, "Hey, Mom and Dad." Dad's not here tonight, Tristan.
Hello.
Everyone.
He needs to do his Elijah.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's just
There's Dad.
You almost sound like Cartman. Everyone at my work who's jabbed called out this week testing positive for the unspecified virus of unknown origin. I'm so glad they got protected, aren't we all? Mina Dady, who conveniently is here tonight with her small baby human. Very cute. He's
asleep?
It's our youngest fan. Cradle to the grave. That's how we do it here.
Shout out to all the haters. God bless you. You literally could have just jumped on one of the mics and said that. Okay. No, she didn't. Okay.
Funny.
You don't want to. That's all right. We forgive you. Mavdick said, "Hey, John, when does your new Blaze show start?"
It doesn't.
Young Fei Chang. Oh, hi, guys. It's Mina from Monday. Hello, John. Hello, Sarah. It's been a week. Yes, it has indeed. Benny says,
it has.
"John, you know who I am, and I am in your walls."
Oh.
I have a sword.
I was going to say, you don't want to fuck with John. He has a sword.
You know what's funny, too, about swords?
Big.
He also has numerous firearms. There's that, too. Am I not supposed to out that?
No, yeah. You have guns because you like shooting them and you compensate. I have guns because I'm a threat to democracy. We are not the same. That is another joke.
I have
what
guns
I will
because
say,
I
though,
worry about my physical safety, and if it ever came down to it, I want to be able to shoot someone in the face to protect my body.
What's funny, I think, about swords is because of Hollywood, we see sword fights and we think it was like this very choreographed dancing and duel. It was literally just guys like beating each other with sticks. Like, this thing was like more of a blunt weapon than it was like a slash. It's just, I don't know what that means. Your mind's in the gutter. We open up the can of worms.
It's not. You just said that you cleared your entire living room so you can do your little swordy thing.
My little swordy thing. If a threat came in here right now.
Your cute little swordy thing.
Yeah, you mock it, but if a threat came in right now, you'd both look at me and my sword and say, "What are we going to do?" You would say, "Save us," and I would just say, "No." And I would just sit here. I'm joking. That's a Watchmen reference. You guys remember the Rorschach thing? Okay, let's move on.
The old racer says, El Camizianor. I think it would be fun if you guys had Jeremy from the Quartering on to discuss our zeitgeist. Jeremy has a standing invitation. He just will not come on. I don't know why. Go bully him to come on the show. Jeff O'Heffo says, "Now I'm not a homosexual, but Doyle is quite hot." Ask Sydney so she can confirm in more ways than one. As for Elijah, the reason why Doyle is so rich now is because Elijah paid a great fee for Doyle to set aside his Christian values.
This is not the case. The second part of your super chat is incorrect, though the first part is totally correct. And, you're not gay for saying that. A lot of times because they want to attack male friendships, because male networks are how things get accomplished. And they want to kind of cloud this by introducing these themes of homosexuality. And it's all very inconducive to that. So, no, you're not gay for saying that. And in fact, there is something to be said about kissing the homies goodnight, for example. These just
tucking them in.
Yeah, these affectionate displays of just
rub.
male bonding. You can see this too in Corinthians. You are to greet your brothers with a warm kiss. I think is something.
Did you just say kissing the homies?
Yeah. Just kissing the homies goodnight.
No one's gonna clip that.
I mean, you would be wrong to. You're implying that I'm the one who's weird if you're not kissing your friends goodnight. I mean, what do you think, you're gonna like it or something?
Sarah and I are missing out on kisses.
Yeah,
it's very sad.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Elijah.
We have a lot of time to make up for.
Come on, Jonathan. All right. Our baseball says, Sid sent you a message on Telegram. If you are really serious about what the message consists of, I can help you get started. That sounds very ominous, friend. I don't really know how to use Telegram, so I will have a look. But yes, I haven't seen your message, so I will check it out. Robert Weil says, "Hey, Sydney, I just want to let you know I support you. You are a good person. Be blessed. And I bought the new hoodie. Have a blessed night." I'm so glad you did, guys. If you want a heartfelt shirt, these guys will have them soon so that they can wear them on the show. Check out my merch store, sydneywatson.com/merch. They're a limited run. So like John was saying before, they won't be around for very long, probably till the end of the month. So if you want one,
just like that guy's career.
One.
Sid, did you ever think you'd be iconic like that?
No, it's so strange, actually. Honestly, like watching people get excited buying them makes me so excited because I'm like, this is cool, man. And it's not because, like, again, I don't want people to think I'm being a jerk because I'm not. I just think that when these situations arise, like, you got to make lemonade, I like lemonade.
Hell yeah.
Just not with that much sugar. All right. Corey Bollig says, "Hey, Sydney, you so fine. You so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Sydney." Hey, Sydney. Thank you, darling. Cyclops says, "Elijah, Sid, and John, have you read the book? Wait, have you or would you consider reading the Book of Mormon? I'm sure Glenn could hook you up and answer any cues you have."
I got some. You want them? They're free.
No.
They give them out freely.
Pass.
They're very generous with their literature.
I believe it. SpongeBob SquarePants says, "What's up, babe?" I don't know who that's directed at. SpongeBob. Sorry. Huge anus says, "Evening, Elijah Dasherstan, L. Sydney's, and Juan Doyle. Juan, as a black, I am most excited for the MLK video. Plan Trusters vindicated once again."
It's so true. Thank you, my brother. It will be out in a timely manner, Jafimi. And what? What?
I don't understand how he's allowed to get away with this shit.
Hey,
He's a black person expert.
No
man.
one else could ever do this.
Two-faced comedians be acting like comedians. You feel me? Hey, get your money or not your funny up.
Alrighty.
For real. Hey, what bro said.
Find My Geisha says, hey, y'all should look into bringing on John Burke. I would happily have John Burke on. Jeff O'Heffer says, have you guys heard the news? Jack Murphy, you guys are going to get me in trouble. Jack Murphy transitioned to Jessica Murphy so that people would stop calling him G. Sadly for him, the right instead of began calling him, I don't even know. Sweet, I'm not reading this. Brian Schultz, John is a lucky man to be surrounded by those beautiful ladies. Don't take it for granted, young sir.
Yeah, young sir.
I would never dispute anything from Brian. I mean, my overriding ambition is to assimilate into his worldview. I think he's a great guy. So I guess
Brian is a cutie pie. Alex Lindquist says, Sarah and Sydney look like a video I've seen on the hub. We're clothed, friend.
Yeah, wait a second.
My number one says, "Fact, yes, Sid and Sarah, let's go. Hashtag girl power. Hashtag see the bigots." There are many bigots. Oh, so many bigots. I'm just kidding. Only a few. Daniel Wozniak says, why no Elwiger? Guys, these are getting really hard to read. Well, this is Till the Blackest show on the internet. Yes, this is true. I try things, says John Doyle. E.S. Kang's Inish?
I don't know what that means.
That's
These
not
are
even
hard to decipher today.
legitimately, like, yeah.
People are already celebrating the weekend early.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, exactly. They're fucking drunk off their face. Young Pei Chang says, when everyone else was out partying, Supreme Gentleman John Doyle studied the blade.
This is true, actually.
That's hilarious. Big Tone Anthony says, love you all. Sarah is one of my faves, and Sid and John are amazing. Much love. Plus, Brandon is base. Let's go, Brandon. Back at you,
Thank
champ.
you.
Glad to have you.
Love you back.
Matten Bisping.
Bisping?
I'm moving to Colorado from Texas in May. I'll be starting a pond landscaping company. I'll gladly make one for your future homes. Okay. Wow. I know you're moving from Colorado to Texas. Sorry, I can't read. You guys know I can't read. Yes, make me a pond. I want some koi fish.
I will never forget the noise you just made. There's
Snorting?
something about that. She goes, It reminded me of like in a video game when you approach like a locked door and like the dialogue, like you can't open it and you're like it's trying to like redirect you away from it. There was something about that was just very funny.
Alrighty, that's Fresh26 says, shout out to James Klug. Go follow his YouTube channel.
So
he deserves more subs.
Love
He will be on the
James.
show in February, guys. And yes,
He's coming?
Yes, he is.
Oh, yay.
Go check out James, everybody. He makes really, really good street videos. He's fantastic. James
very
Klug.
handsome.
He is very handsome.
very handsome.
He's very funny too. I mean, that I've never in my life, like when we went to Vegas together, I'd never met him before. And never in my life have I just clicked with somebody so quickly. Like we were just, it was such a good time.
He was cute too.
Did you kiss him
he
goodnight?
No. Well, no. I'll tell you.
Not on the first date.
I'll just say that a new vocab term was coined. It was achieving a state of drunkenness where it's called you are Klug drunk. Because James will reach a point where he's drunk and then he, gets a little ambiguous with his sexuality. So,
Oh my God.
yeah. We love him though.
I thought what happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas, but I guess not when you're with John Doyle.
Why? That's boring.
John and Aldo were just like, we love this man. And I was like, he is great.
He
true.
is.
James is honestly one of my favorite humans for sure.
It's so true. And
Yeah.
I say it all the time.
He is a very, very, very good boy. I always he says a bunch of weird crap in real life that I now say all the time, like chop, chop, little onion. He says it all the time. And
Yeah.
now I say it. I'm like, chop, chop, little onion, let's go. And I'm like, oh God, I'm becoming James. Anyway. Ethan Hegel says, Sydney, there was a floral museum we used to visit as kids, a true wealth of information on all things flowers. Unfortunately, it was shut down by the FBI. Is this a trap? Since they heard it was full of petal files. No, that's okay. Well, I'm sorry about your museum. Tim Hawley says, hey guys, David Wood is in Dallas for a debate con this weekend. You should get a hold of him to have him on the show. Okay. TK says, Joe Doyle rules. You're Joe now, I guess.
Love Joe.
I'll take it. We're
Joe
all big
is
Joe
my
fans.
favorite.
Love Joe.
The best. Jen Ryan says, Sid and Sarah, everything out of John's mouth is true. One
Real.
day my fellow females will get their shit together, specifically white women. No, we don't diss the white women.
Well, in the defense of women, I will say, and by the way, if you think that like defending women is like white knighting or simping, like you're just stupid, because it's like, I mean, men used to conquer cities and like murder people like over women. The best music and art that's ever been created has been like created by men for women. So there's this very new attitude, and it's edgy, and I get it, and it's so funny. Believe me, it's hilarious. But it's like just denigrating women simply for that sake is just really immature. And it's like, you know, criticizing white women, I get it, but it's like feminism as a whole only has arisen because of male weakness. Like no woman who ever has felt fulfilled in her life, be it sexually or romantically or whatever. I mean, like a Sydney Watson over here, you know, she's like a feminist or whatever, and she talked about her experiences earlier. Case in point. The point being, no woman who's ever feeling fulfilled as...
Boy, you're going to get a big slap when we get off the show.
No woman who ever feels
The
fulfilled...
audacity of this man.
Look at how they talk. No woman who ever feels fulfilled in her role as a woman would
be
ever
more
try...
justified if I fought you with a sword.
Whatever, you know, if you want to do that, that'd be good content.
Someone send me a sword, and then John and I will settle this like men.
No woman who ever has felt fulfilled in her role as a woman would ever feel the need to envy a man or usurp his authority. What they have done is capitalize on the weakness of men because, you know, the cycle, you know, strong men create good times, create weak men or whatever. And so what they're doing is taking that shadow of a man who has failed to put them in their place, so to speak, and they have basically rebelled against that. That's why you look at all the most like vicious feminists, they all have daddy issues because they're angry at their fathers for failing to provide that strong masculine influence in their lives. And so, yes, you know, we can talk about the state of white women, but it's like ultimately, what you want them to, you know, get themselves in order. Like I thought, you know, you can't have it like as a man be like, oh, get back in the kitchen. Are you providing the kitchen? Like if you believe that you are a man and your job is to be in
Who's paying
charge.
for these pots and pans?
It's
Who's
true.
buying the sugar?
If you believe that your job as a man is to be in charge, it's like, well, then that's what you're going to have to do, you know?
Buy the sugar, everybody, and buy the pots and pans. That's what you're going to have to do.
Well, and I just am realizing if John was responsible for reading all of the supers, this show would be literally 6 hours long.
Yes, this is true.
I have things to say. And they demonize
you know
me.
what, Jonathan?
When have you
That's
ever
why
seen
we
me
bring
defend
you
women
on.
with such a passion? When have you ever seen that and you just want to move on? Look, they don't even want to be defended. They don't even want to be defended. Why do you think that it's women who are in the most favor of masks and vaccines? They like being degraded. And you try to stand up for them one time and they just shut you down. We've all learned tonight.
Well, are we those women?
No, anti-vax Sarah. No, you're not.
Have you ever seen me wearing a mask?
No.
Okay, well.
Are you providing the kitchen?
It's an important question. Seriously, you can't have it both ways.
I'm with you there.
I
need the kitchen provided.
The last thing I'll say on that.
But you know what, John? I'll disappoint you. I still won't cook.
Well, that's why you shouldn't even.
I clean like a true Mexican woman. I do not. I just don't like
But
cooking.
you don't,
and I
yeah.
married a man who really loves cooking and grilling and stuff. So I'm like,
And that's totally fine. But, and I'm
Let's do
sure,
it.
I know that you and I have spoken about this before, this phenomenon of young guys who really just like have it out for women in particular. And it's like what that is. And there's no shame in this because society is like totally backwards. But like, even if you look at the proportion of guys who are, you know, high school age, who are dating or involved with women in any capacity, it's like tanked.
Yeah.
And so what happens is their entire concept of a woman is basically derived from like pornography, which most of them are watching. And so when you view women as only a sexual object, like not as a mother or anything like that, and then when you can't get access to that because you're probably a little bit insecure, you're not that confident, you didn't really maybe have a strong male figure to teach you how to like talk and interact with women. So you see these new hierarchies being constructed where you've got like only the chads, so to speak, who have access to women, and you get resentful. There's no shame in that. You're not the one who fumbled the ball. That was the boomers that made the society this way. But it's like you have to really kind of have an honest self-assessment and be like, am I, you know, super trad and think that this shouldn't be happening because you like really care, or is it because you just like don't like that the hierarchy is excluding you? This is why I think the trads misunderstand sex. Premarital sex is wrong, true. It's not moral, true, but it is trad in the sense that everyone's been doing that forever. You know, the shotgun wedding is the thing that's existed. The problem now is we have things like birth control and sex ed, which is taught that, you know, sex is just about pleasure, which has made it such that people are in this perpetual adolescent state to where now they're not getting married until they're in their late 20s, 30s, even 40s sometimes. That is abnormal. That's what's wrong. So to expect people to just abstain until they're in their 20s and 30s, if the world were perfect, but it's not. We are sinners. We are fallen. The correct answer would be to reorient all of that energy and just throw it all at birth control and throw it all at feminism. That's the way, if you wanted to solve that problem, that's like the way that you would actually go about it. But I just don't think that it's a serious discussion that's being had. And again, they giggle. Why
We're
are you
not
laughing?
giggling.
I'm
trying to communicate with Sarah about the functionality of the show as you're talking, as Elijah and I always do. It's not
and
personal.
Is it because I talk too much?
No. I
I
was thinking though, I love when you have heaps to say because it makes the show more interesting and everybody likes when
she just wishes you would say it like in the first hour when we're all talking and not when she's trying to get through the super chats. John.
No, I was saying that
he looks so dejected.
if John made more videos, guys, for you,
it's all bottled up and then it all comes out on you.
Literally, I was just trying to say, but except it's hard when I'm trying to listen and trying to talk at the same time. But if you made more bloody content, then you could. Do you want? God, you just want a sword fight. We will. We're going to sword fight.
By the way, I can't. My IFB, I can't hear you.
I know. I don't know why I keep trying to talk to you.
It's so like it's not working.
I'm so dumb. Okay. Long John says, Sarah and John, your Jack Murphy takes. You guys just want to.
No comment.
Drama.
I have a comment, but I can't. I've talked too much or whatever.
You hurt his feelings.
I already publicly released my statement. And for Sid, I will not go into it. I will just say if I was there, the conversation would have gone much differently.
Sydney Coin is skyrocketing. I feel so vindicated having been an early investor. I mean, you look at the way that it's true. You look at the way that she acknowledged the Rosa Parks psyop, and and then you look at the whole thing with like outing these masculinity gurus, and it's just like it's skyrocketing. And I'm riding the rocket. We're going to the moon.
This is why you and I, people don't believe it, but you and I are like genuinely really good mates behind the scenes. I just think it's funny because, guys, until I started on this show, I was always very curated in what I said because I would hyper research a topic, and now you just get unfiltered me with my questionable opinions that line up with Jonathan often.
Most of the time. That's why it really is a special occasion when we disagree. And why is that scary?
Because, all right, Max says, calling back to months ago, it's all right to enjoy things for children that you enjoyed as a child. I hold on to them and hope to share them with my children one day. What I don't like is adults latching on to new things. I don't know what that's in reference to, Max. Jeffrey Mann says, so Sydney wants to hold John's sword. Interesting. Who says that I haven't? Kyle Parsons says, if they want my kids, they will have to drag them over my body through a pile of brass. That's fighting words. M Tech says, today the health secretary of Puerto Rico said that the CDC uses PR and NY, Puerto Rico and New York, to measure the effectiveness of the jab. Both places have a high vax rate and high case numbers, even with mandates for going anywhere. I never know what the abbreviations mean, and I feel like, because I haven't grown up in this country, so I read them and I'm
PR
like,
would be Puerto Rico.
I don't know what I'm looking at.
Respected global political commentator Sydney Watson, NY.
New York? Yeah, New York.
Yes,
whatever.
It's New York.
Okay, sometimes it's confusing.
That's
I'm like,
their whole
what
thing.
is
I
MN?
heart NY. You've seen it a million
it's always
times.
NYC, isn't it? Oh,
No.
whatever. Okay,
If you're in the city,
fine. Okay, fine. Sydney's a dum dum. Whatever.
No,
Nicholas South says, it seems that my jokes are punnier in my head than they are in the super chats, but still wanted to support a great show. Also, way to hold down the fort, Sydney. Nicholas, I'm sorry when I don't get the jokes, but glad to have you here. Tom Beemore says, PSA, if you have astigmatism, red dot sites, no matter the quality, will have bad sight picture / starburst pattern double sight. Check it out if you buy. Good alternative to a prismatic sight. Okay, so when you see those pictures that are like, this is what people with astigmatism see at nighttime, I looked at one of them and I was like, oh shit, I thought everyone saw this. No, they don't.
Really?
Yeah, I did not know that all the things coming off of light wasn't normal until I saw one of those pictures and I was like, oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
And see, I have no idea what you're referring to because I've never seen it.
Do you have astigmatism, Jonathan?
I don't know. I always thought that I was just like this genetically and something bad happened. I found out like a year ago. It's because my mom took this medication before she was pregnant.
You told me this,
Oh God, you're a fetal alcohol baby.
No, I'm not. I'm a preeminent genius.
He doesn't have a squishy face.
But it was just like,
his eyes are too close
why did you
together.
never like tell me like we're going to the eye doctor, we're in lens crafters, and I'm just like, I guess I'm just fucked up. And like I never was told I did this to you because I took the pills.
It wasn't her. It was the medical community, as we've discussed.
Julio Hernandez says, great news. John Cato, the first GOP to impeach Trump over 1-6, has retired. I have decided to get involved in the fight and intern for the challenger. Sergio, hi Serge, says, oh God, it's John. Hi John, you left your Beauty and the Beast PJs in my room. I love you, John. Kisses.
You gotta stop, Serge.
I love that. Loud upstairs neighbor, Sydney. Why were you and John gone so long when you went out for steak with Elijah? Dancing, getting engaged, therefore becoming our conservative king and queen?
They'll never tell.
We'll never tell.
It's actually funnier if we maintain the illusion, because what I'm pretty sure, because I don't even think, first of all, I don't even think we were invited. Second of all, we were probably just both at home by ourselves, just like reading. It's just like...
That's the thing, because Elijah outed us, on our date the other night, and apparently Daddy Chad is really mad about it, so...
That's not the first thing I did to make Chad mad this week.
This is true. You're a bad boy, Jonathan.
I bought him a bottle of tequila. It's all, we're all good.
That will solve many of Chad's problems.
That is true.
And also simultaneously create more problems.
That's why he looked so happy the other day when I saw him. He gave me a big cuddle, and he was also holding a bottle of tequila. So there was that. Edwin Warshik. John, you will make a great leader one day. I am with you.
It's true. It is so true.
Many people are saying it.
Many are saying it.
De Ascalon said, swords are awesome, and in a country where you can't have guns, appreciated. Now try armor. Real steel stuff, not modern. Roman is good. Yes. Billy Choo Choo says, Elijah Mima and Sid Nibley Cakes for a red pill on psychiatry and psychology. Watch the Minds of Men documentary by Truthstream Media. Happy to do that. Zachary Rubio says, I was watching one of your episodes. Roommate hears me laughing. He's fat, comes in the room, watches AJ roast fatties, looks at me. I had no explanation, walks out, never talked about it again. Chaotic Narwhal says, did you hear about the new Biden mandate amendment 34 being proposed to target the what? The Daily Wire? Google Rule 34, Ben Shapiro for info.
No, don't do that.
No, don't do that. That's going to bring up bad stuff.
Yeah, just don't do that.
It's a trick?
Yes.
It's a trap?
Okay.
Oh, it's a trap.
Don't do it. Mike Bickle says, can you guys have some people on to talk about parental alienation? It makes the trauma of divorce even worse. Petra Dieter, perhaps. Let's go, Brandon. I'm more than happy to do that because that is a massive issue. And I'm sure that's gotten worse actually over the pandemic, all this sort of stuff. Particularly parental alienation, like deliberately keeping your kids from someone because you're like, haha,
you
infection.
get to use it as an excuse. And the courts were not prepared for any of this and had no idea how to handle it.
It's so sad because dads lose out all the time. It just the whole thing makes me mad.
Yeah, but there are some dads who take advantage of
for sure.
that and accuse things that they shouldn't be accusing.
Memo type. Oh, you want?
No. Okay. That's all I had to say.
Memo type says, as an atheist and lifelong Gold Star libertarian, I'm very torn between how many libertarians have become so corporatist shills and the religious right. Being politically homeless sucks. I get you, friendo. I get you. Our Bracewell says, I love how when Doyle is on now, every time his face to face with Sid and Sarah, it's hilarious to watch. It's hilarious he has to live out his nightmare time and time again. Sorry, I can't read.
These are indeed this is my favorite time to have John on is when it's you two, because the things that make him uncomfortable are so much funnier in person than when Elijah's here.
What? Nothing makes me uncomfortable. I'm an open book, it's just...
Tyler Krause says, we're in a good place to buy body armor. It's coming to the time to need it. Things are not looking good at the moment. This is true. Liam Goo, sorry, Liam, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Hey, John, comrade from West Best, Virginia, which is the Off Commie recommended rifle, the AR, the AK. Prayers to you and the upload schedule.
True.
Sarah, the Blaze chat is demanding Sarah Pelosi, but I don't know if you want to do it now or if you want to close the show with that.
I gotta say I'm a fan of the AR platform. I understand the arguments for the AK, but I mean, you got to be practical too. And I think in America in particular, it's a lot easier to sort of customize ARs and, have access to different parts and things like that. Like if you're imagining, your doomsday scenario, you kind of want to prepare yourself for whatever's going to be easiest to access. And so, I know, for example, and this is just anecdotal, but I know people, well, first of all, we do know that the AR is the most popular rifle in America, but I know people who, have stockpiles of 223, not so much 7.62. So it's like, you got to just kind of, I guess, read the room. So
no answer?
No, AR. I would say AR.
Okay. Good stuff. Kobashi Spookai So I think this is one of these traps where you've written it weird and I'm going to say it out loud. And I get it. All right, cool. Username says, the brainwashed left no longer can listen to facts, but instead just increasingly fanatical in their ideas. We must do this as well. The difference, however, is that we are correct. John Christian says, Sid, you're wrong on sweat/track pants. To gym rats and meatheads, they are everyday wear, and finding jeans to fit and are comfortable is hard. John. I understand, given that I am 1,000 feet tall, and finding pants is very hard, even for tall women. Here's my thing, friendo. If you're wearing track pants out of the house, I'm still going to judge the shit out of you. However, if you are a gym rat doing that, I will judge you less, considering that you probably have nice legs. Sagittarius, Anton
But you
says,
can't see them because they're sweatpants.
you can see enough.
Okay.
All right, then.
Sagittarius,
Enough said.
Says, John is right. The Constitution is flawed. No shit. It was written like however many hundreds of years ago. The writers wrote it to be improved upon. How could it not be flawed? 2 minute, 1 30-second answer.
Give him,
The problem,
or no answer.
The problem
and then
is
he'll
just
take
not.
5.
the Constitution does not mean a document. The Constitution means what comprises the people. So like if everyone here were blue, the Constitution would reflect that, right? So the problem with our Constitution is it sort of presupposed that those who would be wielding that power would care about enforcing it. And so, it is true that throughout the history of the world, politically speaking, there's no such thing as like a nation of laws. If you try to like outsource the morality and the Constitution of a society to like this sort of algorithm that's written on paper, it's not going to survive. The problem isn't that, it just needed to be tweaked this way or this way. The problem is that it allowed for bad people to be in charge of enforcing those laws. So you need to have a constitution that sort of reflects that and has some grounding in the immaterial as opposed to just the material. So it was sort of set up to fail, to be honest.
Well, there you go. I'm going to start reading some of these ones from the top. So guys, I'm sorry if I miss your super tonight. Like I said, it's just me reading them because Sarah can't have access because we don't know passwords and things on Elijah's little lappy top. So I apologize if I don't get to all of them, but I want to read some of these ones that I think are useful and good. Lisa Gordon says, hubby is a returned Aussie soldier. It took 20 years and the suicide of our daughter for him to seek help. Therapy and drugs have finally given him back. Please don't dismiss medical help outright. Because I just think that we need the other side of the story. People have experiences. And yes, I'm very sorry for the loss of your daughter, because that is...
I can't imagine.
That is definitely really awful. Gimple says, the worst thing Elijah ever did other than to attack our democracy on January 6th was the constant shilling of John upon us.
No, I disagree. Who said that?
Oh, God.
Gimple.
John says as he
Scumbag
caresses his sword.
Scumbag 6 says, John, why do you think Tom Brady is so reviled but America worshipped Michael Jordan?
Because Tom Brady's white and Michael Jordan's black.
Did they just say Tom Brady's reviled? Tom Brady's like one of the most popular.
Why.
He's one of the most popular athletes in the history of our country.
It is true, but in terms of the amount of people who like have a real problem with this guy, like it's definitely, there's a lot of anti-Brady rhetoric. And it's because like he just is a normal guy who happens to be really good at football. And there's also something to be said about it being almost unpreferable to like root for the underdog. Like, why not root for the guy who's like good? Why not just accept that? It's like these people who are just mad because, he keeps winning. And that's almost a rejection of hierarchy, is it not? It is actually spiritually leftist to reject Tom Brady and to not like him.
Gimple says, John is a pseudo-intellectual who dominates the conversation because he loves hearing himself speak, yet says nothing of substance. Get new guests. Matthew Perkins says, the arrogance of this guy is tough to watch.
Only people who are insecure are threatened by that. I mean, my brain probably contains both of their brains, which is why I'm in the chair and they're not. And, you can acknowledge that or you can be off-put by it and be like, this guy is arrogant. I'm not. I am irrationally self-confident. It's true.
Mr. Retsim says, Sara Gonzales' ancestors were the original conquerors of the New World. John needs to brush up on his history.
With the Mexicans and the Aussies, the Brits? I acknowledge the Brits.
No, the Spanish.
The Spanish? I thought they can go with the Aztecs.
Well, the majority of people in Central and South America, which is the other thing that shits me, people don't know anything about anything. They don't shit from clay. A lot of people, you could argue the majority of people in Central and South America are of Spanish or God, what's the other thing that they speak? And they say voce. God, what's that? What is Portuguese?
Yeah.
Oh.
No,
they conquered a crap ton of the world. So when people don't know, they're like, I'm native. It's like, no, you're not. Your ancestry is, I bet you anything, if you're from Central or South America and you go and get your blood tested and put the sputum in the cup, you will probably be of Spanish descent or of Portuguese descent.
No, yeah, it's totally true. In terms of like European countries who conquered the world, it was the Brits, it was the French, it was the Spanish, and the Italians. Like those people like ruled the world. So yeah, I acknowledge that.
Thank you, Sean.
We've got the Brit, we've got the Spanish, and we've got the Frenchman, right? We're all here. All we need is Aldo for the Italian representation.
Oh,
Devil Destin says, dealt with a lot of depression in my 20s, noticed finding things that made me laugh, snapped me out of it, and focused on that. I recommend it to everyone. Also, just like, forcing yourself to do shit you don't want to do when you feel bad is honestly the best way to get your head in the game. Like going to the gym or taking vitamins, cooking, whatever it is that you enjoy doing. Just force yourself.
Some might say manning up.
True.
Some might say that.
Corey says, cut complex carbs. White rice is based, no tired. That's good, Shan. Bobcat says, wait, when did Elijah get replaced by a beautiful woman?
That's sweet. Thank you. It's just today.
Mel W says, this was the best fat shaming and health shaming conversation so far. I say as I reheat my leftover fries. Oops. Fries are pretty good though. I like them cold.
Ew. What?
What? Deport her.
What?
Send her back.
I like fries cold.
Mm-hmm.
No, you are the
chips,
answer. I think this
cold
atheism
are really
thing.
good.
You know what, John? You might be right on this. That's something the devil would say.
That's why I brought my sword. There was a very intelligent saint who once said something to the effect, the way that I would deal with a heretic is to drive my sword through their stomach. And, Sydney, the resident atheist, I knew I'd have to be on guard a little bit. So
wait, do you dip them in a condiment?
No.
But they're so dry and
no, they're soggy. That's why I like them. So I like putting vinegar on chips, and even if they're cold, I like the vinegar on them. Yeah.
On fries?
Yeah, on chips. Yep. Chips
is horrifying.
What they're called.
Yeah, this is the worst thing I've ever heard about you.
Terrifying
what else? So I do.
Sydney and I are very close, and I didn't know this about her, and I feel like
I wish I didn't know
there's
this.
two other super gross food things. Hey.
You always hear these stories in history like, how could they just genocide this group of people? And then you hear things like that, and you're like, maybe they weren't so crazy.
There's two other things white women, John, freak people out. That one of them is that actually I don't know if I want to out myself. I love baked beans, like the Heinz ones that we get in Australia. I'll buy you guys. I can buy them now. I know where
British ones.
Yeah, the British ones. I'll buy you guys some if you like baked beans. The American ones are so sweet. It's so weird. Anyway,
yeah,
I eat them cold out of the thing. I just eat them. I don't warm up or anything. I like them cold.
I think that's fair because they're not necessarily cold, right?
Yeah.
They're just room temperature.
Ketchup on broccoli is like one of my favorite things ever.
Tzatziki
dip with salt and vinegar chips, phenomenal. But also too tzatziki.
Oh, with salt and vinegar chips,
really good. So good.
You just recalled something actually from my child. This was
she wasn't done.
Memory.
The one thing that I do.
Ping pong. She interrupts me. Interrupts her.
Yeah, this is true. I don't get upset when people interrupt me. I don't know why people. Whatever.
No, I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to know more.
So the last one that I do, I don't know if I want to out myself because this one's kind of gross.
Do it.
It's not worse than cold fries. You've already crossed lines.
Go.
I don't like eating potato chips. Like I don't like they get caught in my teeth and it's gross and I don't like it. So sometimes. I have been known because there are these chips I call the crack chips, and they're the greatest thing ever. And I can't get them in the United States, so my family will send me care packages and like just things of these chips. I lick off the flavor and throw the chip away.
Stop.
I do. I can't stand. I don't want to eat the chips, right? But I want the flavoring because the crack chips. But then my tongue starts to bleed, and then I have to stop. It's so bad.
Weird.
Yeah, people think it's super gross. I never do it around people, obviously, but it's There you go. I'm a fucking weirdo. Sorry about
on the bright side, it's like, that's like the weirdest thing that people know about you. I mean, this show has a history of opening up closets and unearthing skeletons. And so
what did it remind you of, the tzatziki thing?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I think we were having like hamburgers and broccoli or something for dinner. And I realized that I could put ketchup on broccoli if I wanted to, because I'm an American, damn it. It's a free country. And I did it. It was like great. And I haven't run that back actually in a while, but that did kind of unlock. I feel like in Ratatouille when he has it and he's called back to in the French countryside. That's how I felt just now.
I'm glad. But like on a serious note, broccoli or even cauliflower with ketchup, it's very good. I don't know.
Cauliflower, sweet and sour.
I just put hot sauce
half an hour
on everything.
Your hot sauce is gross. So is barbecue sauce. I hate barbecue sauce.
Or red chili pepper.
Yuck.
On broccoli.
Yuck.
And cauliflower.
I don't know why you're in this room.
Wow.
Let me just give you my
Well,
soggy
this is
chips.
my last time on the show, everyone.
Them fighting words.
This is what did it.
It was great being with you.
This is what did it.
No, Sarah.
Klesperian says, I could listen to John speak for 8 hours a day, multiple days a week without getting bored.
And many are saying this. It's because my pseudo-intellectual self just has so many things to say.
Gimple said, lame of you to wimp out reading my super chat. Can offend power bottom John, I guess. I read 2 of your mean super chats about John. What are you talking about?
What is a power bottom?
Oh, God, John.
Apple Hollow says, thank you for having the show. It's always fun to see John Doyle and Sydney Watson go at it. We do go at it.
Oh, yes, they
Why
do.
Why do you do this? Why?
Yes,
do
they
do
do,
this?
ladies and gentlemen.
Arguing with our words, Jonathan.
I am going to glide my sword through you.
Yeah, you would.
The phrasing does not help at all, John.
Okay.
Apple Hollow also says, love the show, heartfelt. Back at you, champ. Rini Romer says, now I want to know, Sid, you open this can of worms, no kinks. Don't pull a Jack Murphy on me now. I don't know what that's in reference to.
It was earlier when we figured out that your entire political worldview is a series of rationalizations for why you're upset with past men that you've been involved with.
Oh, no, I don't think that's... I don't think that's... I would honestly happily get into this, but I think that there's a
Your body,
line
look at the way she was like, oh, no, I don't know.
Personal information.
Someone analyze this body language.
I would love to get into this, but unfortunately, we don't have the time.
Really bad.
3
look
minutes
at that.
over,
we have to go.
Yeah, we do actually have to go. Guys, I do read all your supers behind the scenes here. So I'm sorry when we can't get to all of them. But thank you very much. And if you have stayed this late in the show, you will know that this is an audio-only podcast. And sometimes we read your reviews and they make me laugh internally. And maybe we have one tonight. Jonathan, Brandon. Okay, thank you very much. Mary Stuck in California. Oh, God. Love this show. You Are Here provides a fun and entertaining view of the absurdity of the world that we live in. Thank you, Elijah and Sydney, for helping us stay grounded in reality while we are bombarded with wokeness and idiocy from all sides. Love ye truth and beauty. Well, that's a lovely one. Do we have another one or is that it?
Just one.
Just one. There you go. Well, guys, leave us a review. I love reading them. They actually make me laugh, especially your long and hilarious ones where you misspell Elijah's name in multiple different ways. It's very enjoyable. And if you are here on YouTube watching and listening and just quietly judging Jonathan, then, like, share, subscribe, do the thing. Quietly caress that like button. Just hold it to your body. Like, Sarah, stop looking at me.
I was getting turned on.
Oh, that's good.
Keep going, please.
We're going to have fun after the show.
Please,
Okay.
just keep going, okay? Please.
Do you want to take us out,
I
Nancy
do not want
Pelosi?
to take you out. I don't know how to say it. I just know that, you know what, the world sucks or something, and then you are here, and unfortunately, so are we. I don't know.
All right, guys. Well, Nancy will be back maybe next week, maybe the following week. Jonathan as well. Thank you guys for being here. Guys, John, I'm not actually going to let you take us out. Cue the music. As we like to say here, life is in fact a hell of a lot of bullshit. And unfortunately, you are here and so are we. And we will see you next week. Lots of very fun guests lined up. Have a great weekend, everyone. Be safe and well. Make good choices. Hug your dog, hug your wife, hug your kids. Jonathan's going to go and pee now. We will see you guys. Be safe and well.